Good afternoon, July 6, 2:30. This is a scheduled meeting of the Grace County Commission. All stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll take roll call. Avriel,
He's on his way.
he's on his way. Okay, we'll leave that till later. Tranby,
Hi, Rod. I have you on speaker.
Sounds good.
Tranby's absent. Zorn,
Here.
Stephanie,
Here.
present. And Wakefield's present. Avriel, present?
Yep.
Present. Okay. So, if you will look over the agenda, and if acceptable, we'll call for a motion to approve that.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
We have a motion to approve the agenda by Edlund. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Zorn. Is there any discussion, further discussion on the agenda? Any further discussion? Barring none, we'll call for a vote. All in favor of approving the agenda signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Agenda approved. We've got 3 different meeting minutes to look at here. If you'll look at the June 22nd meeting minutes and speak up if you've got any questions or if you need any changes onto it.
The only thing that was switched from what I sent out last night was I did have the wrong date on the top of the 22nd meeting minutes for the date, but that was all that I switched.
And it's been changed?
Yes.
Right, so the official one at the meeting has been changed to the correct date?
Yeah.
Very good. Anybody come across anything that needs to be discussed or changed? If not, I'd call for a motion to approve the meeting minutes and waive the reading.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Avriel to approve the June 22nd meeting minutes and waive the reading. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Zorn. Any further discussion on the meeting minutes? Further discussion? Barring none, we'll move to the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. 22 meeting minutes approved. Now we'll move on to the 28th.
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion by Edlin to approve the June 28th meeting minutes. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Zorn. Any further discussion on the 28th meeting minutes? Barring no discussion, we'll move to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Minutes approved. Now on to the June 29th meeting minutes, same procedure.
Make a motion to approve June 29th meeting minutes.
Thank you. A motion by Avriel to approve the June 29th meeting minutes. Do we have a second to that?
I'll second.
Thank you. Second by Edlin to approve the June 29th meeting minutes. Any further discussion? Barring no further discussion, we'll move on to the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Minutes approved. So, if you'll have a look at the bills, Samantha, is there any discrepancies there that you see?
No, not that I see.
Same procedure. If you see anything that you question, don't be scared to speak up. Wayne, anything on your side of the bills that was out of line, or not out of line, out of the ordinary?
I don't think so. Is that
I make a
one,
motion to approve the expenses.
Samantha,
Hmm?
did that one bill get in for intercommunicator telephone? It's the 911
Yeah, I think so.
fee you pay every month.
Mm-hmm.
And it might not have got into they were gonna see if they could pay it today, $150.
Okay, but if it's not in here, it won't be considered then, correct?
Right, I don't have anything added
Okay.
on.
All right.
Was that this morning?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. No, I don't have any add-ons.
just pay it next month, or next meeting.
So we have a motion by Edlin to approve the bills as presented. We'll give you a little bit more time, and whoever is, when everybody's ready, we could have a second to that. Or we can have a second now and we can discuss it, whatever you
I'll
prefer.
second it.
Second by Avriel. Further discussion on the bills if needed. Ness Plumbing for $5,990.
Nest Plumbing, that is, when we called Logan Sherlock to come and do work. That was for, if I remember right, it's for our AC units. They weren't working again. We'll have to probably look at replacing them at some point, because it's the same part every year that goes out. Let me grab that just to make sure I'm telling you right.
Did you tell you what it is, or is it on there?
Probably hand Josh, he knows more about that than I certainly would.
I did find the intercommunity telephone company in there, but it's not on your sheet, so that would need to be an add-on.
Oh, so the water refrigerant.
Unless you'd like to wait until next commission meeting for that one.
So they gave you quotes here on replacements, I'm assuming.
They haven't, given me anything for the replacement yet.
'Cause that's what I think this is. Geez, this one for. I have to talk to him and see, but to me it looked like. So what was the cost of mowing on it for Nest Plumbing? Oh, that's the total, $5,000. Okay. That's why I was kind of curious because. That's refrigerant. That's refrigerant. That's air filter. But this, it was probably. Wonder if this was a compressor that went out.
Okay.
That's probably what it is. Compressor probably went out on one of them, and they replaced the compressor. Probably what happened.
Cause then they were talking about having to replace the whole unit at some point or whatever, cause it's the same part that goes out each year.
Really? Is it the same part on the same unit? That's where it's a flag. If it's the same part in the same unit, then yeah, that's definitely a problem. But if it's a different part, same part on different units, it just means the units are starting to go out and they should be probably replaced. So.
Are we good with that?
What's that?
Are we good with that?
Yeah, I mean, it just, to me, it looks like they probably put a compressor in, is probably what it was.
Okay.
So,
Any further discussion on the bills? Well, we have a second, and we have a motion and a second, so barring no further discussion, we'll move on to a roll call vote to approve the bills. Avriel,
aye.
Zorn,
Aye.
Edlund,
Aye.
Wakefield votes aye, bills approved.
Just ask them.
Monthly office reports, if you'll have a look at them. If everybody's satisfied, we'll entertain a motion to accept.
Okay.
Do we have a motion to accept the monthly office reports?
I'll make a motion for that.
Motion by Zorn to accept the monthly office reports. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Avriel. Any further discussion on the office reports? Barring any further discussion, we'll move to the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion passed. Griggs County tax equalization, I presume we don't have anything back from the state?
I have not heard.
I haven't heard anything.
Any other business before the equalization board, or do we at least leave it in recess until we hear from the state?
I think we're probably. I think time is kind of the essence in this thing. I think someone should reach out to the tax commissioner, whether that's me or Samantha or someone from the commission. But I think we should probably do that.
Okay. So I would call for a motion to reopen the Griggs Colony tax equalization meeting.
This is just to discuss it, you mean?
So you would recess.
Yep.
No, it was in
okay.
recess,
So,
yeah, so we're,
I'll second that motion.
well, we need a first.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were making.
No,
The
we need a
first
motion to open,
Okay. I'll make that motion then, yes.
Yeah. Motion by Avriel to open the tax equalization meeting. I need a second.
I'll second that.
Second by Zorn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. In session. So, as soon as the state's attorneys come back, we'll hear from him. So, the meeting is open now, Jamie. What are your recommendations as far as moving forward?
Well, there's errors in the sales ratio study, so I think we wrote the letter. I think someone reaches out to the tax commissioner and see what we can do.
Okay. Okay. So the 3 points as I see them is we had admitted errors, of course. We didn't have a tax director, and there was never approval given by the commission to do the sales ratio study, nor was it accepted by the commission. So I guess we have 4 issues involved with that need clarification in order for us to move forward. So, with that in mind, we'll need a motion to allow the state's attorney to reach out, check in the status of the letter to the state and what the recommendation they give us moving forward.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Zorn. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Second by Avriel. Further discussion.
You're okay with doing that then, Jamie?
Yeah, I have no problem doing it. I'll do it right after the meeting, actually.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Absent no further discussion, we'll move on to a vote. I think this will be a roll call vote, as the previous were roll call votes. Avriel,
Aye.
Tranby's not present. Zorn,
Aye.
Edlund,
Nay.
Wakefield votes aye. Motion passed. Thank you, Jamie. IT Palm County website.
You would have to move You recessed regular meeting,
Yep.
moved into tax equalization. Now we'll have to recess tax equalization and move into regular meeting.
We can't leave it open till the end of the both meetings and recess one and close the other? Or would you rather close it now?
Recess it.
Recess it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So upon recommendation from the auditor, we need a recess to the Griggs County Tax Equalization meeting. We'll need a motion to that effect.
I'll make a motion for
Oh.
that.
Motion by Averill to recess the tax equalization meeting. Can we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Zorn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Griggs County Tax Equalization meeting is now in recess to the Griggs County Commission meeting. And the agenda item next up is IT Palm/county website.
I do have him coming.
Okay, so let's move that. Let's move on then. Bob, we gotta put a vest on you.
What's that?
We gotta put a vest on you the way it looks. You're on the sheriff protection vest.
Yeah, well, this wasn't it sheriff vest and budget.
Well, that's the budget's coming, yeah. If you want the budget, we can do that. Do the vest first.
Well, the vest will just be worked into the budget.
Okay, the vest is gonna be in the
Yeah,
budget,
just-
okay.
We're at that point now anyway, so.
Okay. So, then we are on to the 2024 budget. We went through it last time and we got a bunch of items that there was no, we didn't have any argument with any of them, any questions, and they were just, we moved on from them. So the one thing to keep in mind on this, as we're doing this budget, we can't approve anything until the end, because of
Oh,
course.
yeah, absolutely, I understand.
Yeah, because
I was hoping
you know
for-
the system, I mean, so say we approved the custodian's budget and then the rest of the budget was in turmoil, you can't fund one without the
Correct.
whole. So what we do is we basically discuss the budget and arrive at we arrive at a point where we're gonna move it forward to present it to the people to see if they are in favor on it. Because of course, that's all we're doing here. We're
Yep.
gonna get a tentative budget, we're gonna put it out to taxpayers, and then we're gonna have a meeting to see whether or not they approved of it.
Okay.
So, B17, if you wanna open up your budgets. That's the sheriff's budget. This is outlining the
Mine says
expenses.
B19.
Mine's B19 too. 17's the revenues, isn't it? Oh, tax information, B19, excuse me. So, just for the people that are not accustomed to looking at this thing, the first column is actual expenses 2022.
Correct.
So that's the bottom figure was the overall budget for 2022. That was actually spent and verified. The next column over on the bottom figure is 209,350. That was the budget approved in 23. We don't know how much of that has been spent yet, but that was the budget approved. The amount requested in 2024 is fairly straightforward. And for discussion purposes, the final allowance 2024 is what we moved into that far right column, because that then will allow the program, as we run it through, to calculate the levy. So what we're talking about now is the amount requested, and each line there, as you go down, you can look what was actually the expenditures were for that position in 2022, and you can see what was approved in the budget for 2023, and then you can see what was requested for 2024. So the budgets as it stands right now over the actual expenses in 2022 is $227,000 higher. And it's approximately $213,000 higher than the budget from last year. So we're over 100% increase in this budget. So Bob, I'll leave it up to you.
Okay.
If you take the amount requested line, it'd be column 3 from the left, 2024. I bumped requested salaries up to 70 for the sheriff, chief deputy to 62. That falls in line with the wage studies I've done, neighboring counties. I put in $10,000 for Annie Dewald, or the office deputy position. That's an add. I added a 12,000 hourly salary. And then on the bottom of that salaries page, I put in 55,000 for a new deputy. And I'll come back to that. Dropping down towards the bottom, it says radios, repeaters, new mobiles and portables. As part of that Siren 2020 project, our current radio system will no longer be functioning in March of 2024. They're turning off the old radio system. This came out, I believe, started out in 15. It's my understanding this has been brought to the commission since I retired the first time, several times, and was not appropriated. Of that 53,500, that's what I had on my last submittal. We got a second proposal from Motorola out of Fargo. That one had come in at 55,400, and of that amount, 12,000 of that will immediately come back to the county. There's an automatic grant that was funded by the federal government that is tied directly to the radio purchase, so that money will come back. Without those radios, we will not be able to talk state radio once they make the switch in March. It's been put off 2 years, but it's going to go, and all they're finishing up the towers this year to make that operate. So after that's that. If without that radio purchase, there will be no communicating with state radio. That's the reason for that is the frequency situation in North Dakota. When I started out, they had taken, like, if you know what a rope is a frequency. About the time I started, they unraveled that rope to this individual twines, and from that point forward, they've unraveled those twines, and every one of those strands is a frequency. And now they've gotten to the point where they split those strands 3-4 ways, and there's just no more room to do anything. So they've moved. North Dakota is one of the last states to move forward on this process, and that's where this is driven from. Our technology will no longer work. The next line down, I added 4,000 for ballistic vests. We have, besides a vest for myself, we have one other vest that's outdated. It's past its lifespan. Before I spend that money, we will work on the vest grant. There's a ballistic vest grant, comes out every year. We'll work on that and try and eliminate most of that expenditure. But I have to have it to spend it to buy it to get the money back, or however, if it's being a reimbursement or pre-funded. And then the next item was a replacement sheriff's truck. That could be for another patrol car if that ends up being the case. The pickup is getting pretty close to the end of its life. I got to replace the driver's seat in it. It's completely shot. There's now rust coming through the rear fenders.
That's that maroon one you drive, right?
Yeah. And the motor's starting to make some noise. It just, it's done its duty since 2012. It's been on the road for X number of years, so. Bouncing back to the new deputy position, it says Deputy 2, new. The school, one housekeeping thing, I think it's 3 meetings ago, the superintendent was here. He was here to visit with me on that meeting. The school has requested the potential of sharing an officer for a school resource officer with the county. Their preliminary offer has been $45,000. Of that $45,000, half to 60% of that is federal funding that they can get for that purpose. And Derek's instructions to me, not instructions, but his conversations with me was they have eliminated some admin positions. They thought they were top heavy possibly, and they're allocating that money to services that directly affect the students and the staff and the.
And this is like for a patroller to patrol the school.
This would be a school resource officer. It's a definite function. It's a position that's assigned to the school they would have that position 172 shifts, and we would have the remaining 119 at the county disposal. And I said the only way I would ever enter into this is during the day if needed. That person, whoever was in that position, would have to respond to emergent situations within the county, and they fully understood that process. So that's initial discussion on that. The school board has indicated they are in favor of that, if the details can be worked out appropriately.
So the 55,000 is Griggs County's share to the deputy, or will there be?
That's the total, so we would be paying 10,000 towards the salary. Be 10,000 or, so I put 50,000 or 55,000. Right now, our bottom line deputy or our entry level deputy is 53,000. So that person we paid somewhere between 53 and 55.
So did you account for that 45,000 in the revenue portion of your budget?
Not yet, I didn't.
Okay.
That hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
So you basically put all your costs available and whatever grants you won't have that included until you know for sure you get the grants or the money.
So
Well,
we should go and put it on that other side.
Yeah. The school's portion of this,
Yeah.
that funding will be there if we go forward with that program with the school.
Right,
Okay.
but the school's portion of it will go into the general fund, of course.
Correct, yes, as a reimbursement. I mean, it'll go into the fund.
Yeah.
And that would, backfill this.
So how about, we were denied on the federal side of it when we tried to get a deputy because we didn't qualify for a number of reasons. One was the population size, we had enough law enforcement. Secondly was the crime. So this is different than that. This is for the school resource officer, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And there's I reached out to Senator Hoban's office, didn't get a response back yet. He was not available, and the person involved in this was on vacation until next week. They have not quite announced, but they're going to push forward with that officer in the schools program. And then going forward beyond 2024, that would be the funding source for that program. Now, it's not in place right now, and that's just reality. But I'd be shocked if it doesn't go through, because there's bipartisan support, tremendous.
Well, I know they're really pushing towards getting officers in schools and everything like that. So
And then the other revenue on this would have been the 12,000 reimbursement on the radio. And I was going to reach out to we have three charitable gaming sources here, and one of their charitable gaming, one of their directed or their formulated recipients is first responders.
Yep.
So I was gonna approach them on some money, and that I think is back. I don't know what month that was. Maybe May.
Right.
I don't know if I need the blessing from the county to request that money. I wasn't sure on that, so that's why I was gonna bring that in and just ask that question.
I don't
that
know
day.
that would be so.
I don't know why we would, because other agencies use it.
So a couple, you stated that you wouldn't be in favor of this unless the school went along. So shouldn't the budget amount be the amount that Griggs County is going to contribute, the 10,000 rather than the 55?
Yeah, it sure could be.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, what it should do is be in here, but on the revenue side be in there, because if we're gonna pay them up through our payroll, it would come out of that line item.
Well, that was the next question. This does the 55,000 is bare salary, correct?
That's the bare salary.
Right. So then we have to add another 52% onto that in order for an employee.
Yeah, I no longer have that in my control.
No,
That's no longer
no.
budgeted through me.
So the 55,000. Let's just say it was 55,000. It's actually a $75,000 or $78,000
Right.
budget increase.
I would have preferred if I did it that way, but that's not how we do it. So
No, because
I was about
it just it complicates the issue to split
Yeah.
each department out in order to try to
right,
figure
yeah,
that.
I get that.
And because they each have different rates. Well, you know the thing.
So-
The radio, onto the radio and repeaters, we put it off because each time we were told there's probably grants available, and those grants never materialized long before you were here. But so that's why it was
Yeah,
delayed,
yeah.
because we were looking to see whether or not there was grants available. Are there grants available?
That's the one we got. That's the one that they've given out for that. Every agency when they buy radios now gets that $1,500 per unit.
But it doesn't come close to covering the 50,000.
No, we're the last organization in the county to get these radios. Everybody else has already purchased them.
So what percentage of, how many radios, what's that 50,000 and they get dropped by the grants that we got?
How much what?
How much will it decrease it? How many dollars in grants, how many units are we getting and what does that
We're getting
amount
4
to?
portables, 4 mobiles, and that total is roughly 55,400 if we go with the Motorola's.
Right,
And the grant pays $1,500 per unit back to the county.
So that's,
so
that's
$12,000, so
automatic.
$12,000.
Yep, that's automatic.
So this 50,000 should be reduced by $12,000.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
I just wasn't sure how you guys want it written down. That's
Well, I
what
mean,
was
we're-
today.
that
That would
this
be
is the
about the
upfront
same
cost,
as
but
like that, put it in there at the.
But I
fall in
have,
the
I have to
revenue.
expend that money out of the budget, and then that gets reimbursed immediately.
right.
So-
But of course, you can't unlevy money. So if we're levying for the total amount and we're reimbursed, it didn't save the taxpayers a dime because we can't unlevy the money. We can't say, okay, we'll give it back to you.
So we need to put that in the revenue side of the budget there.
Right, so we need to reduce
Yeah,
that.
however you guys want
Yeah,
to word it.
we
if
need to
you're gonna
reduce
go
that
with it.
figure to 38,000 then, correct?
No, keep it in there, but I'll put it in the revenue side.
You should have what you're gonna spend in the expenditure side, but if you're gonna get money from grants, it should be in the revenue
I'll
side.
put it on the revenue side of
Yes.
it.
But it won't show up on this total, on the budget.
Not on his, but on the general fund levy it will.
so on the final result type of deal. On
That
the
income will
final.
reduce.
Yeah, no, I know, but we
But
don't
yeah,
have,
no, it
the
looks-
program doesn't reduce the individual budget.
No, so his budget will look like it's,
The budget will still be reflective of, won't reflect the grant money.
No, and it shouldn't really, because it should be the expenditures.
Well, it's both, because the levy is figured, it's carried back, the way this thing's set up, it's all carried back to the general fund.
Historically, in these situations, just when I was here, one of the grants I was gonna do, we couldn't do it that year because there was no money in the expenditure. So we were able to,
yeah.
because we took it out.
But
You
see,
know,
but-
if we take it out, then how, I don't know how we can expend 55,000 if it's not an expenditure.
Yeah, but see what it does, of course, it makes,
Yes.
it overinflates the sheriff's
Yes.
budget, and then people say, well, why is Bob doubling the sheriff's budget, when actually it's not doubling the sheriff's budget.
Right.
It's still a huge increase, but it's not doubling the sheriff's budget.
Yep.
So the individual budget takes the scrutiny rather than where it should be
Correct.
in the whole general fund.
Yeah. So if there's a way to, you guys want this worded.
So, well, I mean, so,
I'll
and the
do
other,
whatever.
the vehicle, Bob, is, we had that in a separate budget for a reason, just so that it wasn't associated with the sheriff's budget, because it does the same thing.
Okay,
So we need to probably move that back to the general fund and talk about it there,
okay.
the value of it.
I
And
kinda see
with the
that
the value of it, we were only doing 25,000
It's 25,000
Once-
every year.
a year, and then, so that would, at that time we set that up, that would give us a new vehicle every 2 years.
Yeah, in reality, if we get on track here, we would probably not need a new vehicle
For
until
3.
every 3 years.
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
that. So,
Because then we did reduce it this past year. It wasn't
It
25,000.
would
We-
reduce to 10.
Yeah.
I know.
And I have no results
We
to request the money, but
we
here.
went through some budget convulsions when the last sheriff left, there was a lot of things shuffled around that, okay. So I think we should, to make this look better, we should move that 65,000 out of there and into
I'm okay with that.
the general fund.
Okay.
Just, this isn't, we'll look at it then after it gets done. The radios and repeaters,
That was for your vehicle, right? That 65,000?
It's for a vehicle.
A vehicle, 65,000.
If the school resource thing happens, we'll have to do something there, you
Right.
know.
And then you said how much was that? The school was going to pitch in how much for that?
The preliminary have said 45,000.
45,000.
so we need to be able to show the offset somehow. So in essence, then 45,000 and the 12 is 57,000. So that really reduces his $424,000 request by $54,000,
There's-
$57,000.
There's a spot in the general fund revenue for the sheriff's department, and he did think that he was gonna bring in about
Yeah.
$4,000 for revenue, so I could just add it in there.
And then if you move the 65,000, that'll drop that even further.
That'll drop
Or
further.
eligible.
That will drop it. That will be the only number that that'll actually reduce this 425
Yeah.
on the budget sheet here. So, yeah, but it's not going to. The only true savings to the taxpayer is going to be the 45,000 and the 12,000.
Correct.
And I guess that's kind of mincing words, that the money came from some taxpayer somewhere. So, yeah, okay.
The only other items on here that I really did anything significant change on travel and transport. I increased that to 7,000. And the reason that was done, we have a prisoner, well, I guess we don't have him anymore, but we do, he's still there. We have a prisoner in Pennsylvania, not a prisoner, but an individual we would like to, we were gonna bring back to Griggs County because there was a victim of his crime, a personal victim. And Jamie and I have talked about this. The people I wanna bring back to Griggs County are someone that's committed a crime against a person. And we didn't have the money to do this. I didn't have enough money to go get him and maintain anything else, so.
Face your accuser and trial.
Yeah, you know, I guess in the past, in my budgets, I've had line items that were, approved, and we might have spent a fourth of it and returned that back to the county. I went back through my old budgets and I return money every year. I don't recall ever going on a November, December shopping spree. That's not the way I personally live myself. I don't.
But I mean, that's the budget process. That's
Yep.
that's every department within
Yep.
the general fund does that, and,
Yep.
and there's a reason for that, of course.
Yeah.
The
But
main
it-
reason being that if there's a mistake made in favor of the taxpayer by over budgeting, that eventually it will offset a future levy.
Right. And the problem I have, some of these things are merging. I don't have time for the commissioners to wait 2 weeks to have a meeting to approve me to go get a prisoner or something. I don't still have that. If it's not my budget, then I really don't have the authority to spend it. Or expend it.
So the changes we would make to this then, just correct me if I'm wrong, would be we would move the patrol vehicle to the general fund. The radios and repeaters, we're gonna make a budget note that 12,000 of that will come from grants, correct?
I'll put that in the revenue side of it, yep.
And same thing with that deputy too, right?
And then
So your 4,000 revenue will be 50,
7. 12 and 45, 57,000.
52,
12.45.
62,000, because he had 4,000 in there. He had
61 then.
61
45, 12,
and 4.
and 4, 61.
Okay, so 61.
Anybody have any other questions on this? I guess the office deputy that's an addition?
I was gonna increase her salary. Hoping to. She works for both the state attorney's office, sheriff's office.
Mm-hmm.
She's done an absolute outstanding job.
Yeah.
And there's plenty to keep her busy between the two.
Yeah, so we can certainly change that, but the salary discussions were all going to be lumped into one discussion and the same percentage given to each different entity. Is that,
Yep.
that's so, that'll be done, of course, before this budget is approved, so that can we move that $10,000 out of there? And then it'll be evaluated in the salary negotiations overall with the county
I would
employees?
say that's palatable.
Does the same thing hold true for the sheriff, the deputies, and the chief deputy?
If that's the commission's process, I said that, but I'm
I
assuming
mean-
that's when it's gonna happen.
That's been the process, but of course, everything's open to discussion.
Right.
Right. of course, the salary has to be addressed before the budget can be addressed.
Correct.
And so the reason that we asked for all the salaries to remain the same in this initial process was so that we didn't have to worry about how much, was this an increase over last salary, and then if we give an increase, how much is it gonna be? It was so everybody's the same, and if we give a percentage increase, it affects everybody equally. That's been the way it's done. If that's not the way it's supposed to be done, or the way the commission doesn't want it done anymore, then certainly can open for discussion. But if we're discussing each salary individually from each different entity, there has to be something to justify then each time we raise a salary. So we raise a salary for the auditor, should we raise it for the treasurer, or raise it for the recorder? That's why we adopted a percentage raise overall, or leave it the same.
Well, and I totally understand that, but our current way we do salaries here, there's no place for discussion for, what I'm trying to say here, for, recalculating a position. A chief deputy's position in our neighboring jurisdictions is pushing that anywhere from 60 to 70,000. And if we're gonna look at everything totally just percentage wise, well, nothing's ever gonna change. It's just gonna keep lagging behind. We can't recruit anybody here. And most of our neighbors are having the same problem. But with our last salary adjustment, it's made it more palatable.
Mm-hmm.
But to get a qualified chief deputy that's capable of basically running the show in the absence of the sheriff, you're gonna get a person that is gonna be able to do that job for an adjusted salary rate. I understand the straight percentage situation. That makes easy math to figure out. I get that. In this situation, I think it needs to be looked at as this position needs to be adjusted for its duties and its responsibilities.
Mm-hmm. So
I don't know if you do that now, or if we don't do it today, I don't know how we're gonna do it when it's just a straight percentage. I mean, there's like no room for sort of discussion then. If the commission's gonna say, well, we're gonna do this percentage, then there's no discussion after today.
So, in an elected position, the system doesn't allow for performance. By what I mean is, so if we give Samantha a 8% raise and 3 years later she's no longer the auditor, that raise was passed on to somebody that probably didn't have any experience. So the system can't accommodate, well, this is a 20-year employee doing a very good job, because once you give that position the salary, then whoever steps in that position assumes all the benefits of the prior employee or elected official. And that's kind of the government does that. That's why they assign classes to employees. You're an E7, you're an E8, you're E9.
Mm-hmm.
And so then the situation that we're in is, okay, did this employee or this elected official perform above or below the standard of their position? And then how do we determine the standard of their position? So you can see how it can get so convoluted that there has to be some way to set a baseline, which was set. Maybe the baseline was, maybe the sheriff's department has outgrown the baseline. But at one time we set all the employees' wages the same for the job they were doing, and then we increased them accordingly, which is a fair way to do that. Maybe the demand for the sheriff's department, maybe that outgrew the demand on the rest of the elected officials. That's an argument that could be made.
Well, I know we're all in the same state, and I know there's numerous counties around us have wage scales, because it is in exactly what you just talked about, John. You get someone hired on Tuesday that's never worked one day in a position, and you've got someone that's worked 20 years. Should they be at the same salary? If you have a wage scale, that does away with that. That accommodates that through longevity. And most counties have a longevity program.
So then in that scenario, if the 20-year employee went away and a brand new employee stepped into that position, would there be a decrease in salary?
Yes, sir. That's also done many places.
So,
I would not expect to pay a deputy sheriff has worked, like graduated the academy and come to work for Griggs County.
I understand that,
No.
but every other employee in Griggs County is that way. If
But
the
that-
30-year employee steps away, the brand new employee steps exactly into that salary position.
But we've created that here. We've created that. That's not a fact of nature. That's something that was created here by the county.
No,
commission.
the fact that government operates in 4-year cycles
Correct.
created it by,
Yes.
because the voters
Yes.
demand that, because, so it isn't Griggs County created that. That's the only way to accommodate the fact that your job is only here for 4 years and the voters can say no, but your job is, the position is paid by the position, not by the person occupying it.
Correct, exactly.
That's, and that's the way it's gotta be in an
So
elected
when
position.
I'm talking about increasing the chief deputy has greater responsibilities than a regular field deputy. So I'm asking to reclassify that. That
That's
needs
what
to
I was
be
trying to get to. We did
Yeah.
at one time, when we originally set this, Bob, you were
Yeah.
around, and the sheriff got more than the auditor for that very reason.
Right.
And then from that point, it was no different than equalizing taxes.
I get that.
When you put everything that at a point and then you raise it incrementally, it should treat everybody fairly.
Correct. And that's why I'm asking this to be reclassified or rescheduled, or however we want to look at that.
So then what do we use for a reference when we do have the position where a long-term employee is replaced by a short-term employee? How much do we decrease their pay by? Where's the guidelines? Do you have those guidelines that can show me that?
Well, those guidelines were here at one time, and I know our neighboring counties have that. They have pay schedules. I don't know very many people that have gone to work are expecting to get the same pay on day one of their career as a day one for that year from a 25-year.
I know, but that's the way government functions. If
Correct.
that's the way it works.
But it's up.
Bob,
But it is.
I like the idea, Bob, with having a major scale on your hires.
Our neighboring county, oh, sorry, Steph, our neighboring counties, they're just finishing up a pay study to do those things. And that's a decision that the commission has to make, not Bob Hook.
So on the question of that, shouldn't we just have the departments put the wages and the salaries in the budget then? Would that be an easier fix, or?
That's the system I grew up in, and so now we're in this system, and whatever you guys are gonna do, I'm gonna work with. I just would like to get the chief deputy's position reclassified or rescheduled.
So, to answer your question, so what happens when the treasurer, the auditor, the recorder, all elected positions put a different salary in their budget? What do you do then? Do you raise it all to the highest common denominator? Do you average it? Do you raise it to the lowest? The reason that we had it in place where we set the salaries the same and then moved them up by the COLA, which is the amount government raises according to inflation, was to remedy that. So how do you differentiate then between salaries? What allows one salary to be raised higher than the other when they're both elected positions?
Set a base salary and then just increase it every year from there.
That's how it was done. So we went through and we looked at the salaries they were getting and we set that salary, and then with the COLA, how much is the government going to increase what it pays its retirees and Social Security? And that's what we raise the
That's what I
salaries every
mean,
year.
have the departments set their base salaries on what they're gonna pay their employees and then increase it from there. And leave it up to the department heads to put it in their budget to spend that.
But then how do you make sure that it's fair between each department head?
Have the heads deal with it.
The chief deputy isn't an elected position, it's a
No.
hired position.
No, we understand that. No, we understand that. And with that's, so,
I get what you're saying, to make everything fair across the board, so there's no discretion and everything like that, and I understand that. I also understand the fact of it is we can't sit there and take somebody on their first year and pay them the same as been here for 20 years, because that creates discrepancy too.
mm-hmm.
So how do you get out of that?
Well, if they're
With the
here,
neighboring county.
if they're here for 20 years, they will have got the increases all along during those 20 years.
Well, yeah, but then, let's say a guy in my position.
Mm-hmm.
I am at the highest rank I can be in my field.
Mm-hmm.
If you take and I hire an apprentice and and you hire him and pay him the same wages that you're paying him as me,
Mm-hmm.
I will walk out of that job.
You're trying to compare private
I'm
industry
just,
to.
I understand that, but I'm just saying that a lot of people think that way. That you take a guy, a veteran, that's been here for so long, and then you take another guy that's only just started, you're paying him the same,
Absolutely.
that creates discrepancy.
No, that's the way the system works. That's just the way the system works. You can't, how do you change that? So are we gonna sit down and how are we going to arrive at a payment schedule? What are we gonna use for a basis of it?
Well, that's what I mean, can we figure out,
Well-
have the department heads figure that out?
Well,
into-
John, our neighboring counties, I mean, and I know all these people, I've known them for 40
Yeah.
years. I've been doing this longer than anybody in this room except for probably Wayne.
Hmm?
So, the neighboring counties have pay schedules. And it's not the department head to say who is gonna fall in that. The burden's off the commission, it's on the department head. You're gonna set, the commission, however you wanna do this, you're gonna set your pay scale. So when that junior employee comes in first day one, this is their starting point. They know that the day they take the job. And if they do their work and complete their work and put their time on task, they're gonna get sent up to the next level. That's why we have deputy auditors 1, deputy auditors 2, deputy auditors 3. You have a deputy. Some departments are big enough, they have deputies, they have corporals, lieutenants, whatever. So you can differentiate responsibilities. That's just how it works other places, and we're all in the same state, so I don't know why that could not and cannot work in the future for Griggs County.
Well-
Because in the past we did that and it did work.
And then have the deputy heads set the raises and all that, and the pay.
We can come up with a pay schedule like all of our neighboring counties do and work with it every year and go through the system like they do. And it's a known number, it's a known raise, it's a known, it isn't just giving them a raise. They have to meet the duties and responsibilities to a satisfactory level where the department head says, yeah, this person has achieved all 10 check boxes and can be moved forward.
So we'll have to have a change in the century code then, of course, because the county
Well,
commission.
Johnny, are all the other counties, are they breaking the law?
The
Because I've
county-
never seen anybody
Will you
charged.
let me finish my sentence?
Yeah, I will do that.
The county commission is responsible for the budget.
Yep.
The department heads are not responsible for the budget. We have to take responsibility and say, okay, taxpayer, here's what we're going to pay that employee. And we have to be able to justify that. And I don't think that most of the taxpayers are going to go along with, well, because this department head said he's worth this much, or this department head said they're not worth that much. That's why there was a system in place. It's why the county commission was responsible for the budgeting, is because this money just doesn't come out of the blue. We have to actually go take it from people. And the system can be changed out every 4 years because that's the election process.
Mm-hmm.
And this person stepping out of the position, the person stepping in gets the same salary. I've never seen where someone changed an elected position and took a lesser salary than the person that was leaving. That doesn't happen.
But they could.
Well, now we're talking hypotheticals.
Well,
It doesn't-
John, you're
it
talking
doesn't-
the same
it-
hypotheticals.
I know, but we're talking all over, you were talking the state, that doesn't happen.
Okay,
The
John,
auditor steps
I've
in.
been to the Century Code, and I have never seen it there where a county commission cannot develop a pay schedule. I've looked, I've never seen that.
We had a pay schedule developed.
We did?
Yes, we were using the COLA as the increase in salary.
Okay, a COLA is not a salary increase. A COLA is a cost of living adjustment. And our policy says, John, that the commission will use that COLA amount each year for that increase.
Mm-hmm.
But there's times in recent history where the COLA amount was this, and this was given.
Well, and the opposite, because it lags.
See,
I mean, it's
So
Bob,
everything can be adjusted, that's what I'm trying to say.
Bob.
None of this is set in stone.
I know, Bob, it's a system that the federal government uses for all their retirees. it must be a fair system. They use it for all of the social security, they use it for the retired veterans, they use it for the disabled, they use it for anybody that is retired or in a working position in order to raise or lower the compensation.
Correct. I
So that,
understand
so if it's good enough for everybody else,
It's
why
good
isn't
enough
it
here.
good enough here?
But the COLA is not strictly their raises. There's counties that give COLAs and they give salary adjustments.
I understand
Right.
that, Bob, I understand that, but
And-
the system was working quite well, and now we're trying to bring in a system where this will be a negotiation on each individual department, and then how will we equalize amongst the departments?
Okay, John, no one said that, what you're saying. No one has said that today. Nope. Well, he may have, but you're asking me to talk about my budget.
No, I know, we got
So-
off track here, so
You go to work for the federal government, you start day one, you're not making the same money as the them in your.
you started at E1, but we don't do that here.
No, I'm not at E1. I'm not talking military, John. We're talking state government, other county government, city governments.
They still have a schedule just like the military.
So what's wrong with the schedule?
Where is it?
You have to build it. It's not.
Bob,
it's
we
not
had
century
it,
code.
we had it built. We set the salaries.
Who
and
did?
The commission did. We set the salaries and we're moving them up according to COLA. Let's talk about yours here, Bob.
Okay.
What? We were talking about,
I'd like to
What-
reclassify the chief's deputy position due to its salary, due to its responsibilities.
okay,
So, and I'm not asking for an individual raise. I'm asking to classify a position regardless of who is qualified to be in there. It's
okay, so that was what I was trying to get to.
Hey.
So your
We've been there.
your reclassification here then will not be subject then to whatever salary increase we deem for the rest of the employees.
most likely not. Not the first year. Going
Okay,
forward, it would
all
be.
right, okay. I mean, we got to get to a point where
Yes.
where we can actually figure out what we're doing here.
Right.
Okay, so the chief deputy, that is the anticipated salary with whatever increase or decrease is given to the rest of the employees.
Okay, I'd like to say one more thing about this.
Okay,
In all history of my work in law enforcement, there is a budget amount set for a position.
yep,
And it was the department head's prerogative to pay up to that position.
yep,
So if I get a chief deputy that may be worth, hasn't got the credentials yet to get to the 62, and needs to be at a 59 or 58, then that's the number I would put in there for that year.
you've always had that prerogative.
Right,
The budget,
exactly.
the budget number is to spend that amount. You can spend a lesser amount, that's never been.
Correct.
That's never been it. Okay, so then,
But my concern is, I need to get the budget amounts to these positions, not beyond salaries, to what's listed here, so I can function and run the office.
but that's what we're doing here.
Right.
So the chief deputy's at 60,000, and that is what you're requesting.
I have
After-
62,000.
I have 60.
Okay, I submitted a second budget to be disseminated.
Oh, shoot, I'm sorry.
Let's take a 5-minute break while we get that budget.
Yeah.
Hold up. And then motion to take a 5-minute break. Do
Make that motion.
we have a second?
Rod did.
One second.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed, same sign. Commence the 5-minute break. Deputy then is 62,000. That is the budget considering any increases that we might give to the rest of the employees.
Correct.
Okay. The deputy number 1, is that also the salary considering any increases?
Correct.
Correct.
The deputy one there wasn't a change from last year.
Okay.
So if there's a COLA percentage, that position would get that.
That's correct. That's a new position.
Not one, just the deputy 2.
Yeah. So then why is deputy 1 lower than deputy 2?
Up to, because if we use the school resource officer, that person's gonna have considerable more training and some experience.
So if I got this straight, when we work this, we're gonna use those numbers, Sam?
70, 62, 53, 12, and 55.
Yes, with a footnote on the, well, with a footnote on the new deputy, that 45,000 of it will be, the way I understand it, we're not gonna hire the new deputy unless the school goes along with it.
I'd like to hire one either way, but I fear that would be the way to ease the pain this year. And
Well, I mean, going forward, the school, if it is, the school will pay that every year, correct?
yeah, they plan this the long term.
So is it reasonable to say that for this year, unless the school goes along with it, we won't have a new deputy position?
I'd like to have one either way. That's my take. And if we can make it a school resource officer and share that position with them, that would make sense for the community. What I'd like to do after we get this done today, I would like to bring to your next meeting some solid figures and planning on that, if that's what you prefer.
Well, then we've got enough information, or you've got enough. We'll move the patrol vehicle to the general fund, and you can bring us the rest of the updated information next meeting.
If that's all you have to do, I'm happy with that. When's the final on the budget? Still September?
Nothing can be raised after August. So they'll have one more meeting.
After August 1st?
Yeah.
Okay,
Because that's when then
that's what I
estimated,
assumed.
estimated
The
tax statements go
estimate
out.
has to go out, and
So the estimated tax statements will be out.
So are you having a public hearing for the budget this year with
The
the
ninth.
citizens, or?
The public hearing will be on October 5th. But nothing can be raised after that. The estimated tax statements go out, so then it can only be lowered at that point, so. But yeah, there's the July 20th meeting that we still have to have. Or, and then any special meetings after that too.
yeah, it'll probably involve. Rod, you had a question?
What is the number, Bob's final number, once we take the grant from the radios, moving the funds from the pickup, and then the school, if they chip in their 45,000, you take that and subtract it from his original number. What is he looking for now?
Well, the pickup isn't going to displace any levy. It's just going to get moved to a different category. So
It's in the
it won't
general
matter.
fund, so it's just.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I see that. Okay.
So the savings to the taxpayer from what we've done, Bob has put forward so far would be $57,000. 45 for the school resource officer and 12 for the radio equipment.
Okay.
So that comes off of a new revised total of 429,500. So approximately, just in approximate numbers, it's going to move it down to from 429 to 370, somewhere in there.
Okay.
380,
And then
380.
off of his initial budget minus the 65 off of his initial rate.
Right, but that doesn't give us
That doesn't
any
affect the
advantage.
overall budget, just
Right.
off of his.
Yeah, it's just where we categorize it. So yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, the money is still, if it's approved, would still be spent. So that doesn't do us. Yeah. So we can rework that one.
So do you want me to submit a cleaned up version then?
Which Sam will do
Or
it.
you'll do that?
I just did it.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So I got the 65,000 out of there, left everything else the same, and then I put the revenue on the general fund part of it.
Then I will seek funding from the gaming divisions, or the gaming operations, and probably drag that down further, I'm assuming. Potentially 100% of it.
Yeah. Okay. Any more questions for Bob?
I just got one more thing on the budget. We were reached out on Monday by the state of North Dakota on that Back to Blue program the governor put forth. They plan to expend that money out in August. We had just had to provide them some real minor data information on population, officers, something like that. And then I believe this coming Monday or Tuesday, they're going to be submitting the amount that Griggs County would be allotted and its purposes. So I'll have that to you. That'll have to probably be signed on the 20th. So I'll have that to you guys. You want that in advance so you can look at it, or what's the process?
If you can get it to me in advance, I send out the packet the Thursday night before the meeting.
Okay, we'll get it to you the day that it comes in.
Perfect.
So, and that's a potential of 17 to 2,000 per officer for different. It'd be like a reimbursement type situation for things that we've expended. So that's got a potential of $6,000, somewhere between 5 and 6. Other than that, that's all I have, I believe.
Okay. Thank you, Bob.
Yep, thank you.
So let's go to the county agent budget. I assume that's what you're here for?
I'm just here to listen if it came up.
Okay. Well, I hate to disappoint you, so we'll talk about
Otherwise,
it.
we can wait for Jeff for the next meeting as well. It's just,
Well,
or did
we
you want
can
to
talk
get the
we can
website?
talk about it. I think the only
Did you want to go back and do the website?
The website.
oh, it's Travis. Yeah,
Yeah,
let's
here.
let's do the
You want
website
that?
first.
Okay.
Okay, so we are on to IT Palm County website. Travis?
Yep, I submitted the 3 different price quotes, I guess. I got one from our company just to do basically revising, updating on the server, and then 2 other companies for quotes for their system for that.
I just have them right here. I didn't put them in your packet.
So I did put, not knowing if this is something that you guys want to do yet this year, like we were discussing, or if we want to put that onto next year's budget, I guess. So, the budget for the IT side has our costs in there for that first year, or for us to go through that, I guess. So, and the other 2, I did, so with us hosting it here locally, we don't have to pay for another company to host the website for us. It's on the state's backbone. They provide a lot of security for us. That's why I do like running a web server here for that. It does save us some cost aspects of that since it's part of our WAN connection with the state then. The other 2, the one of the package I showed you, or what it gave you guys, is kind of a cost comparison to say, what those other 2 companies would do over a 5-year span since they have an annual cost and an uptime front cost, I guess. I think the benefit of going to one of these other 2 companies is just they would handle all updates. I mean, it's the same thing we do with our IT contract, I guess. They do have a few other modules that would be available from them. I'm not sure if that's something that the county would want to utilize or use, I guess, but.
So this was off the state when they issued that there was possibly a hacking potential to our website. Is that
The server's end of life.
Yeah.
So we're looking at what we can do to upgrade that then, so.
So I think that has to be put into the budget. I mean, there's.
Okay, and I did put the cost that DNA had, we are the lesser of the 3, I guess.
But I mean,
But
the
obviously-
budget request for 2024 will have
I
to be
did
updated.
I did
Okay.
that in this year's budget request for
Okay.
2024.
So that will cover this?
Yeah, I did put that in there for that.
Okay.
So just, those are, I guess the question too, though, if we want to do it that way, or if we want to host it with these other companies, then that budget would have to be increased for them, I guess, is what we'd have to potentially.
Well, I
look at,
would
guess. Well, I shouldn't say
imagine.
increase, we'd have to make sure we're aware of that for the continuing budget for the next 5 years, as the cost would be more every year. As far as, they actually have a hosting fee cost, they would have to put annual fee on that. Whereas us hosting it here on our system equipment, there's just a one-time uptime fee, and then we run it as through here then. So the security aspect is handled by the state. Whereas we are paying these other two companies, if we did go with them, they would be hosting it and providing security for that. So obviously they charge for that for an annual cost on there, so.
So what's the cheapest?
I would be the cheapest if we went with just basically upgrading the current system we have to the latest versions of everything. So basically it's a rebuild of the website. The same back end, it's just all the new versions with it then for it, so. So it would have the same functionality. It would also have potential for more. That's one of the things I guess that didn't really take off as far as a lot of the department heads maybe not utilizing it as much as we could. That's something we could discuss too, if there's systems they would like to, or information they would like to post on there. So the updated system would allow each department head to have a login for their own page to be able to edit if they have information or links they would want to put on there then, so.
So basically your budget is 58,000 more than last year's budget, or
There's other one-time projects we have in the budget.
80% increase?
I did include that. The website upgrade one time was $9,672. We're estimating for that then. Do you want to go all through the budget, I guess, right now, or is that the question, or?
Well, I guess the question I would ask on behalf of the citizens is what are necessary and what are optional?
So you switched the budget now, right? We were talking about the website, now you're talking about budget, right?
Budget, because it went into the budget because this website is included in the
Right.
budget, so we just went over to
I'm trying to keep this all
Okay,
straight.
no, we just went over to the,
I guess that.
the information on the website is held within the budget.
Okay.
So where can savings, where can we save the taxpayers some money on this? This is, you must admit this is a considerable increase.
We have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different projects that are one-time costs. They've been pushed down the road here quite a bit. I don't think they can be pushed anymore. The server itself project, that's, the equipment here is 10 years old. We really do need to look at replacing that hardware. So that's the server, the phone system, and then the NAS that's on the offsite backup location. Those are all, were purchased at the same time for that.
With us switching from Dakota Programs to Tyler Technologies, Travis also got the requirements that we would have to do for the county side for that.
Yeah,
So
I'm
that-
not sure, what number do you have for that ERP software? Because we got their updated quote from them. There's additional options for stuff which would increase that price too. So the ERP software I have here to get everything set up would be $16,187 if the county does go with the full package that Tyler Tech is providing based on their recommendation. So that's the server licenses. So that includes some one-time and some annual costs. So we'd have to look at the breakdown of that for it as well too.
Okay.
And
So
it's
where's
also-
that in this budget?
The ERP software. I'm not sure what yours shows. I might have updated that without sending to Samantha. I'm not sure if I have yet. We just,
So then update it for the next meeting if this isn't
The ERP
correct.
software, I have $7,960.80.
yeah, we just received that information back from Tyler Technologies for this.
Okay,
I was going off of an estimate, an assumption that we probably would need a minimum of this. I
Which-
was now made aware that we're gonna potentially need more if the commission goes with all the modules that Tyler Technologies is recommending.
We just got that quote yesterday.
Okay, so upgrade your budgets and bring it back to us next time.
Do you want to discuss any other aspects of it?
Well, we have to see it in its totality.
Do we? Or can we discuss some line items, see if there's any questions for it?
We don't approve line items, we approve the budget in its totality.
But the discussion for each line item, why it's important or what's involved in it.
Well, I would
It's up to you
imagine,
guys,
but
I
we're
guess.
missing some line items. I mean, we
The
just,
ERP software, are you guys gonna go with the full suite from Tyler Technologies?
I don't know that.
Well, neither do
I mean,
I.
we
So I'm
need-
giving an estimate that potentially what it could cost. So you guys can be aware of that. And if you're gonna be looking at the Tyler Tech project for that, you need to be aware of that as well, too, that there's additional costs beyond just what they're presenting too. I don't want you guys going there blindly, not knowing that, and then all of a sudden, we have to come back and say, hey, we have these software licenses we need to purchase for that.
Again, what are the minimums that we need? What are the bare minimums we need to run this? We're a county of 2,000 people, and now we're approaching $140,000 of IT expense. That's getting kind of spendy for the benefit to the
So
taxpayer.
these
I
are
would
not
say.
annual costs. This budget will, not these one-times will obviously be gone for 2025.
It doesn't eliminate a lot of it. I mean, it doesn't take it back down to the 72,000 that we were last year.
I guess I don't have, like, the new phone server, that would be a one-time, I didn't have that written on there. Replacing backup NAS, that's a one-time.
So, I mean, can you update it so that we know exactly what we're talking about? What are the one-time costs? What are the absolute costs that we might have to incur? What can we cut out of here? What does it take to run the county
That's what
software? I
put
mean,
forth
it's,
here.
What are you trying to cut out, John? I'm not understanding your question.
I didn't understand. The question is, we have one-time costs approaching $20,000, is that right? $30,000, and the server upgrade is another 40. But we went from 72,000 to $130,000 increase in budget. What caused those increases other than the one-time costs? Are those one-time costs absolutely necessary? Are all the rest of these costs absolutely necessary? What is optional? What has to be done? What are the consequences if we don't do it? What are the benefits to the taxpayer if we do?
The equipment being
I'm all
replaced,
for,
sorry, Seth.
I'm all for the server, the website update, that absolutely, and the software and server, it's 2023, it's a whole technology world, and we have to keep up with everything on that. And unfortunately, it does cost a lot to do it, but I think it's the way we are nowadays.
I should interject one thing. The Association of Counties is trying to negotiate a deal with Tyler Technology because there's like 40 counties that are stuck in this situation. So I know I was with them last week, and I believe that Aaron had a phone call scheduled with Tyler Monday last week. So this Tyler situation could change a little bit. I would guess probably not a lot, but there will be probably some changes in the numbers on that.
As far as them taking over some responsibilities of running it, or just
No,
trying
as
to
far as the
negotiate
costs.
pricing down for us?
Negotiate
Okay,
pricing
so
down
doing
for the
that
counties.
through,
Yeah.
Yeah, we
That would be
discussed that
beneficial.
in the May meeting. It was brought up about that, because
Yeah,
there
I-
really is no other options. You've got Tyler and End of Life Dakota Programs, and there was another company that, do you know?
Innovations.
Right, but they had said that that company wasn't, they weren't big enough to come into North Dakota to handle the volume of counties that needed to switch over. But yeah, it was mentioned at that May meeting that they wanted to try to negotiate with them because they would be gaining so many counties, to see if they could.
And we don't need anything like the best of the best. I mean, we just need, what we've been using basically Dakota Programs for, and I know that there was things that Dakota Programs had that we weren't utilizing either, but
And Tether Technology, we use them for both it's our recording software, and we also use it the state uses it for the state court system. And there are lots of different modules that you can buy that we just don't. Some of the larger counties use some of those things, so they're not real necessary, but the basis of it, you're kind of stuck where you don't have a choice on that.
So to answer Steph's comment that she's all in favor of keeping up or spending this money on the IT, it's fine, she's all in favor, but where are we going to get the money, and how are you sure everybody that we represent is in favor of this? We don't tell the citizens what they want. Citizens tell us what they want. The citizens get to determine whether any money is spent, let alone how much. And to make a comment that I'm in favor or someone else is in favor personally doesn't have any pull in this thing. Where are we going to get the money? When we say that we're going to raise this budget by $68,000, where does that money come from? It comes from the citizens out there in the county, and we go to them and we say, give us your money.
I think we're all well aware of
Give
the
us
taxes.
your money. Well, it doesn't
As a
seem that way.
taxpayer,
Give us your money, and if you don't give us your money, we're going to take your property. So these are very serious decisions, and it seems like we're missing the boat here. And
we also have a responsibility to provide services for the citizens, me being one of those citizens here in Grace County. Operating a system that has all our data that's 10 years old or older is not being responsible. You're just waiting for disaster for that system to crash out or something to fail. And me as your IT manager is saying, I can only do so much. We are doing as best we can to make sure we're doing backups, make sure those backups are done. But if we're running on old hardware, we might have a failure that is cascading, meaning more than just one thing or more than just a single stuff breaks that causes complete failure then.
I know,
You
Travis,
replace that
but
with
a lot of the citizens would say, so what? That's the point, me included. So what?
Well, do you want your data to be on here, or do you think we should do something different, I guess? Or what's
No, that isn't the choice. Is this money be spent for a good purpose? And each individual gets to decide that. And when each individual decides that, the group, as a group, the majority gets to decide what happens. So we don't dictate to the citizens what they need. They dictate to us what they need.
by electing the commission, yeah, and they've done so by appointing these 5 persons to
That's
represent
right.
them. So
That's right. And so then
we're
we have,
talking
so then
today
we
with
have to take into account what we think their opinion of this is. And so keep in mind that I'm a commissioner because 5 commissioners 13 years ago spent obligated $170,000 a year to the citizens of Griggs County, and they all got thrown out. That was a pretty clear indication of the people want to have a say in their money being spent. That still holds true today.
I agree with that.
And so
We have to spend money wisely.
so we need to be very mindful of not only what is needed, but whether or not the citizens are willing to pay for that need. We don't get to make the decision whether they need it. We can't tell them, you need this, therefore give us your money.
Well, that's where the department head, me being the IT manager, sit there and say that I'm recommending this because the stuff is outdated. This is what we're recommending to do.
I know, but then we have to, as a commission, and each individual has to determine, is the citizen, the taxpayer, if they could listen to your speech, are they going to say, yes, I'm willing to pay you that, or no, I want to go with
And that's your choice,
lesser services?
That's what you have to decide.
And so I base my decisions on how the citizens react to how I've conducted myself in the budget, in the financial realm. And I have always been very, very conservative, and the citizens that I represent have always stood behind me for that. So I have an indication from them that I shouldn't change my stance on any financial issues, that I should always fight for them, that they always want the very minimum that is needed in order to conduct their life at the very minimum cost. And fluff doesn't do it. I look at this from a personal standpoint. I look at it and I just shake my head. I run businesses that are a lot larger than this, and my IT budget is little or nothing. I go buy a computer once in a while.
I
So-
have to interject here. Our county spent $47,000 to digitize our records.
Yep.
That would be catastrophic if we lost 130 plus years of data by a server failure.
It's
That
still
would
backed
be
up somewhere.
Well,
It better be
that's
backed.
right.
It better be backed up somewhere. We're paying for double and triple backup, so that better be backed up somewhere.
But that's
But-
also on here, the backup itself is also 10 years old, that needs to be replaced.
I know, but we have it backed up for a purpose. It's backed up many different places.
I mean, this is something that we could.
So are we gonna
do
wait till the server
daily.
actually crashes before we replace it? Is that the mentality you wish to have then for that, or?
I'm asking the questions.
I'm
I'm not
asking you.
telling you what to do. I'm asking the questions. What
I make
justifies the
recommendations.
$68,000 increase? That's what I'm
making
asking.
recommendations that this stuff needs to
Because
be
when the
replaced.
citizens come to me and say, why did you allow this budget? I have to be able to say, here's why. That's the whole point of all
cost to replace
this.
this equipment that is now
Okay,
outdated. in my
so
opinion.
you want me to sell them because Travis Palm said we had to?
I am your IT manager, you make recommendations based
No,
on
I got it.
my
I got it.
experience, so.
I got it.
If you wish to discuss why in detail, I'm happy to do that, but nobody has done that with me.
I got it.
With this budget, I've sent out an explanation sheet.
But this isn't the budget, from what I understand. This that I'm holding here isn't reflective of what you want. These numbers aren't correct.
The ERP software is the only thing in question because we didn't get that full
Well, then-
detail yet.
How do we?
So you can't sit there and nitpick one little item. So we can take that one item out of there for until we actually tell me what ERP software you guys are gonna go with, what packages you're gonna go with. That's the only way I can sit there and tell you this is what's gonna cost to get the licenses yet. I'm trying to be upfront here and say, hey, make sure you guys are aware that there is gonna be additional costs if you buy the software because you have to buy licenses to run it here.
We need to get to a point where we can put something in the budget
We
so that
have-
we
I
can
have
look,
submitted for-
so we can
for
look
that.
at the overall budget. We don't approve individual budgets. We approve the final number. We can't approve an individual budget. We approve the final number. That becomes a levy. So.
Well, do you wish to discuss?
If
any
this
other
isn't,
aspects
if
of
this
it?
isn't,
Because you're not approving.
I
it
don't
today.
have any questions. If anybody else has questions, they can ask them. I don't have any questions. I disapprove, and I have the right to disapprove.
I do have one question. Just hypothetically, let's say it crashes. What is it gonna cost to fix it? Everything else? If
Well, this cost for the hardware is
yeah,
gonna
so
still be the
let's say
same.
everything just up and crashed.
Yeah.
Because like you said, it's the end of life. What's it gonna cost overall? Is it gonna cost us more or is it gonna cost us less?
Most likely it's gonna cost more. A year and a half downtime for the departments now where the county's not functioning anymore. So say the server did actually crash. What are we gonna do to get that in?
And then that's gonna affect, like, let's say
What
Sam's
timeframe?
computer, it's gonna affect her computer.
The sheriff's
the
office.
The sheriff's,
everyone who-
everything.
And there's departments that, the sheriff's office has to operate 24/7.
Yeah.
They can't be down. So now we're gonna be coming in
So
and trying to
it's
get
not,
some.
it's not gonna just affect one area, it's gonna affect the whole county, the whole grid of the
Yeah.
whole county.
Like any department head, they operate off their files that are stored on the file server. They operate through their email. We might be able to get something in place for them to at least get on the internet, to get moving forward first. I mean, it's all that disaster, preparedness. You have to look at, well, what are the next steps for that then? So then we look at, okay, we have one backup here that stores everything. That was replaced, I think, 3 years ago. That would be our first price to try to get data off of that then. But we need a physical server now. What's actually gone wrong with it? Are we gonna try to get parts for this one? Or are we gonna special order, get a system in, next day air it in here to
If
get
it's
it?
even available.
And
If it's available.
there's a second backup also.
There's also an offsite backup.
Right,
That-
so
those
it's
are just-
backed up
Those are just,
three times.
well,
Well,
there's
the
two
initial and two
backups.
backups,
Yeah, so you have
yep,
the original
so-
two backups, which I do recommend that is a good practice. And I would highly suggest you continue doing that because of that. But you're also looking at, you're just trying to reduce the risk as much as possible, much as physically responsible. Having 6 backups offsite reduces that risk even significantly more, but the cost to do that
It's so
is, I
simple.
wouldn't recommend doing that. It's not justifiable, like having that many out there.
But to have a backup of a backup is
Is,
justified.
yeah, especially, if there was, say, a worst case scenario fire that happens. Well, the main system here and the backup could be potentially destroyed. even if there's a fire, you still have water damage potentially could destroy that, where it actually doesn't. So that's where the offsite backup comes into place for that then. So your downtime would be your significant cost as well too, is like the operation of the county to do its work is now hindered. They can't be getting access to everything. So us time to come and rebuild it. Now, are you guys going to authorize overtime for our company to come in and do that to get it done as soon as possible? Or, those are the questions that would arise from that. The overtime obviously would be time and a half. We can get that done sooner, but obviously.
They can push the employees back, which can cause more catastrophic failures and everything else. Makes sense. So.
Well, yeah, it makes sense if a failure is imminent.
Well,
But
we don't know for sure.
We don't know if the failure is
But
imminent.
we generally go by a year. The general rule for desktops is 3 to 4 years, or 4 to 5 years. Laptops are 3 years. Servers are usually 7 years. That's kind of where you want to do it. We're at 10 years.
Mhm.
I think we push that well beyond that. I think we really need to look at replacing that. The reason why I was pushing it, we haven't seen any signs of errors. The good thing here is we do have a generator, good power, good cooling. Those will help contribute to get longer life out of physical hardware. But that's no guarantee that it's gonna last for 2, 3, 4, 5. I can't say that for sure. And that's where coming in, and let's replace it on a schedule. 10 years here, I think, is a good idea.
Okay, another question on that is, let's say we replace it. Do you offer some kind of warranty with that type of deal then too?
So the hardware we buy is from Dell through the state negotiates a contract with them.
Okay.
At that time, we can buy the warranties from Dell up to, depending on the model, 5 or 7 years. I always recommend getting the highest years so that way we have the ability to get parts via next day error included with that.
Yeah, I mean, it usually you're fine, but I've seen it, brand new equipment, breakdown, like, hey.
Stuff does happen.
So I just want to make sure there's some kind of warranty backed up behind that to make sure we're good at it.
And that's also why I recommend going with Dell. They've been very good for us for any warranty work that happens for that and getting parts out quickly.
And then that warranty will cover a lot of your labor too. And everything.
The warranty doesn't cover labor, so you can buy a warranty with labor. With us, our area here, to get that kind of is quite expensive for them to send out a tech, or if you want a tech that's they're here in 4 hours, that's quite expensive for that. So usually it's coming out of our IT budget, where if it's hard drive failure, we get a notification, new hard drive comes out, we pull it out, pop it in. It's not for us to come and pop a hard drive. It's not that. It's not. It's easy. It's just if there's a more major, say like an actual motherboard or something goes out on it, Dell will make that determination if they're gonna send a tech out for that to do that, and it's on them to do so. They pay for that.
So if it's something major, especially on their end, they'll take care of it. But if it's a general failure, you're gonna come swap something out quick. It's standard charge, good to go type of deal.
Yeah, and like for hard drives, a lot of time we don't even charge you for guys. We come in, pull a hard drive, put a new one in. It's
a 5-minute deal.
Exactly. It's takes more time for us to do the paperwork than anything to invoice it out. So.
If you recommend warranty, the 7-year warranty with that, where is that included in your price? That $68,000, or is that going to be an additional?
No, the warranty, the quote I gave for the hardware for the server is $14,000 if I remember right, and then I had the labor on top of that, or $15,000. My apologies. That includes the maximum warranty we can get with it. The 5-year or the 7-year is based on what model we get, and we'll be getting quotes from Dell based on what we would recommend. Here's our server requirements. So we're running this many systems. We have to take into account the ERP software we'll be running on there, and they have experts that'll go through and this is what hardware we recommend, what size we go through there.
And you already have a lot of these numbers in place.
Yeah, and that 15,000, we went off of my best guess for what that would look like. I went and just pre-built one off of Dell's website. That just make sure we have that room to whatever might happen, especially with the ERP software, the demand that potentially could have.
So it could be potentially cheaper too.
Potentially, yeah. I wouldn't say probably not much. So yeah, it's not going to be under 10 for sure.
No,
it's
but
going to be. I would say between that 13 and 15.
You're basically quoting us on the high end, so there's room for whatever we
Yeah,
need
because
to
we
go
have to
with
go
or whatever we
through
run into.
an actual quote request from Dell. They'll go through that, and then that quote would only be good for 30 days, or 15 or 30 days. So we will have to. So we approve this budget. If you did go with it, come January, February, we would do a quote request from Dell for that to get that hardware for replacement then. And that same thing goes with like the phone servers. That's right now physically a separate server. With that new server, we're looking at moving it all virtually onto that one to help cut costs. And then the cost there for the hardware is the actual interfacing equipment that plugs into the phones from the phone company then to digitize everything. So the phones themselves in each office will stay the same. They're operational. They're still getting updates. They're still working properly. So it would just be the back end would get an upgrade for that then. And then the backup now is offsite. Same thing. We'll get a quote from the manufacturer for that. So that's the same unit that we purchased when we purchased this server here. So that 10 years ago for that then.
My question then, like Sam, let's say we don't do this, it fails. We gotta come up with the money to pay for it if it fails or whatever else, or to do whatever else. Do we have room in our budget or general funds to pay for that?
We have a reserve.
We have reserve.
I don't know if this would be able to be used through the emergency fund.
I'm sure it is. Not the emergency fund, but we have a reserve. So any more questions?
I'm good.
Okay.
Anything you need there, Travis?
Samantha, I'll send you over that ERP line item. Like I said too, that's still a best guess at this point. It's also dependent on what the commission goes forward with the ERP software, but I want to give you, if you did with every module or everything that they've quoted out, what we would need for that then for it. So it's at somewhere between that 7 and that 16 that I have here, the update with the new stuff that they provide on that quote then. So.
Perfect.
Thank you, Travis.
All right, yeah, no problem. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. So, county agent. I think the only, looks like the only question on this is, well, first of all, the salary, he's got, a salary increase of, well, not very much. $1,500,
Yeah.
$1,800, which is probably gonna be in line with some. The question on the county agent is he wants a full-time secretary, where now he has a 1/3 secretary.
Yeah, in the budget, Jeff Suckler can't be here. He's at the fair doing the rabbit show right now. So if you want to catch the 4-H families, go there after this meeting and check it out. He had put into the budget for the secretary line item a 60% secretary, not full-time, just to be clear. 60% time person. To be honest, he's got a lot of work on his hands, and he needs additional support to be the most successful at his position. I'm sure you guys are aware that, employee retention and burnout, we have time, resources, people, all those things are ingredients, a part of that. So he's asked for the county commission to consider funding this position up to the $20,000 you can see in there for 60% time support staff. Historically, in the past, way back in the day, when I'm talking like a long time ago, I believe there was a 4-day-a-week person that supported Griggs County Extension, Lord Hazard. way back when I started an extension over in Steele County. Griggs County is lower than the other counties for support staff. I know Commissioner Wakefield, you were talking about small population, and Sargent County has a smaller population than Griggs. They just expanded their support staff from 4 days a week to 5 days a week in this last year. Cavalier County also has a smaller population than Griggs County. They have someone for the full time of the hours that they work, which is like 37 and a half hours. Steele County just expanded their support staff from 2 days a week unbenefited to benefited, 4 days extension, 1 day lead board. That's how they kind of creatively funded that position to help the agents be able to focus on their job and support the agents as well. So you can see in there too, they have benefits, as extension has a separate mill levy, so the benefits are included in there as well.
So what, it's a $14,000-15,000, $17,000 increase in salary, in budget.
Yeah, so that would be at the, what I understand, the flat rate that people get for an increase in time up to 60% of time.
So thankfully, we don't rely on other counties to tell us what we need for services in Griggs County.
I know. It's nice to have comparisons.
Thankfully. So I don't know, my own personal opinion, I think we got by with this secretary system the way it worked just fine. What happened was the person that was filling the 3 positions no longer would work with the county agent. I don't know what caused that, but that's what happened. And so I would think the $11,000 could go out and hire someone else to fill in for the time that he needs, if he needs somebody. But this wasn't brought about by the fact that there was more work to do. This was brought about by the fact that the person that was working there quit. Didn't quit the other 2 positions, by the way. Just quit working, and we don't want to get into that, don't care about it. But I don't think that in today's environment where everybody in the agricultural, or most people in the agricultural realm, have hired crop scouts, and most people carry a phone where they can tap right into NDSU and get all the information necessary, I can't imagine where one county agent here with a $11,000 secretary can't fulfill the needs of the majority of the people of Griggs County. The days of the agricultural community relying on the county agent personally for information are long gone. They might rely on NDSU, and NDSU has a very, 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 very good system in place on their website, but almost everybody bypasses the county agent. They go right to NDSU website. So the relevance of a county agent has been diminished to the point of running the 4-H program. And admirable program, but it certainly doesn't affect the majority of the citizens in Griggs County. And so we have a situation where we have a very small majority of people receiving services that are paid for by the majority, and that gets to be a little bit of a sticking point sometimes, and rightly so. I mean, so we've picked out a program like the 4-H program, and we've decided to fund that with taxpayer dollars. We don't do the same thing with other extracurricular activities, baseball, all those different activities, archery, all those are paid for by the participants in the program. Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts. At one time, 4-H was, of course, in its inception was to create people that were going to be involved in agriculture, because everybody was, and come back to the community and expand the community. And it still serves that purpose to a certain extent, but it's such a small number of people that we now have being paid for by a whole bunch of people that don't utilize the services. And that's the question that arises as we get farther and farther away from the principles and need for the reason the county agent was put in place in the first place is far different than what the needs are now. And you have to admit that. I don't know if that is to a point where the county agent isn't needed. I can't say that, but I think it was getting by with the money that was spent, and we're already in a position where there's no extra money. In fact, we're already $300 and some thousand more than that over budget from last year.
How many hours did the current budget allot Jeff for a secretary?
11,000.
$11,000. It's, Sam, do you know this?
Do you know how many hours they were in the extensions?
Is it like 10, 12?
Well, it was a
12
full-time position divided by 3, so it's pretty easy to figure out. Well, it was a full-time position, 37 hours.
37.5.
Well, then it's 12 and a half hours.
12 and a half, okay.
Yeah.
You know, it just, 12 and a half hours is, like $533 a paycheck every 2 weeks for a person. No benefits, not that attractive for someone to come into that work environment and work. And the lack of consistency of having someone 12 and a half hours a week to partition tasks to is difficult to have, just to say, okay, get this project done, because it's such a short amount of time that they're together. So that is why Jeff has the need and has asked for the 60% time for a person.
Okay, noted. We'll move on.
Does anyone else have any other questions? Any other commissioners? Okay, I think Jeff will be attending the next meeting too if there's any follow-up. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
We're not making any progress, people.
John, did you have a question on the grants? Do you want me to talk about that?
I know. We gotta talk, the only way to move this thing forward is to talk about the salaries. That's what's gotta be discussed here. Because without inputting a salary into this thing, we're just stuck here. That's just the way it is. And we're already, don't expect that it stands out, but is this 217,000 or is it 317,000?
I thought it was 217 because I know last meeting she knocked off 90 grand over a mistake she fixed. Like maybe I'm
Except for the one she sent out was 319 again.
What was it?
The over and above, is that what you're
Yes.
looking at? I have $150,774.44 after everything that was changed today too.
100 what?
157 you said.
$150,774.44.
Okay. So what we're looking at then is 154. That was just a 57,000 taken out of there. That's all it changed. The 65 didn't change any for the vehicle.
Nope,
That
that
was-
was just the
45 for the
Revenue.
school and the 12 for the, okay.
revenue.
All right, so just in rough numbers, we have about $1 million worth of salary. And it's not set up, the system isn't set up to look at each individual and evaluate each individual. It doesn't, it's not set up that way. I don't know how it could be set up that way. So it's pretty easy to figure out if you raise it 1%, what the cost is gonna be, but what you have to remember is, we're paying 52% additional. So if you raise a salary by 2%, you actually raise it by 3%, the cost of the taxpayer. And we did with the elected officials' help, when we originally set this up, we equalized everybody's wages. If you look at it, the auditor, treasurer, everybody was getting the same wage, and then we raised it accordingly. So it has been equalized. Bob's point that maybe the demand or the necessity to offer more to the law enforcement, maybe that's valid. That's between you and the people you represent. But we've basically taken that out of this equation now. We're just talking about everything, every salary but
The one
yeah. And actually, if you look, the original request was to the department heads to put the same salary in as they had last year, just for this reason, to make it easy to compute. Well, some of them aren't. So some of them have salary increases in here now, and some don't. And so it's created a bunch more work, no matter how we look at this. Either back it up and to the old and put a salary increase in there, or look at each one individually, and I don't know how you would do that. So the system we had in place before was the COLA increase. We busted that 2 years ago and raised it above the COLA. We broke it again last year and raised it above the COLA.
Last year was below COLA.
And what?
Last year was below COLA. We didn't get the COLA last year.
Last year we got we increased it by 1.5 the year 2 years ago. We decreased it by the 1.5 last year.
Okay. So there's where we're at, and that's where we're at. The average salary, medium salary for a resident in Griggs County, the average medium salary according to the Century Code, according to the census, is $40,150. So there's the information that I have. The salaries right now are above the medium salary for a resident of Griggs County. Is that justified or not? That's up to each individual to make that determination. So obviously I can't decide what the salary is going to be. You can't decide what the salary is going to be. We have to decide as a group, or three of us have to decide, and it has to be done here. And it doesn't have to be a negotiated process. We have to decide what we're going to do and do it, or we're going to be coming back here day after day after day for special meetings because these budgets have to be done.
What's COLA right now?
So the cost of living, if you guys were to continue, that would be the 8.7%.
The raise.
That would be just the cost of living increase.
And that's
That would be for 2022, and then for 2024. So it's lagging.
Can you, what, my curious on that is, if I wanna break it down, I suppose individually, which probably is the right way, can we break it down per hourly wage? And just so I can get an idea what they're getting for, you know what I mean? Can you give me that, or can't you do that, cause a lot of them are different?
So like per hour, or like
Yeah,
how
what
much?
is the average per hour?
Well, just use, well, not hour, use a $50,000 salary for the auditor. And put 8% on that. That's $4,000. That's $4,000, which amounts to about $350 a month.
So right now, the deputy auditor would be getting $17.77 per hour. So then you would have to do that 8.7% on top of that.
If we should figure it out, we'll put in the COLA in right now.
So with the COLA then,
And then we
it would be about 10% in the COLA then, right?
About 12.
12?
It's
Well, I suppose because the,
50%, yeah. So, yeah.
so what the COLA would be, so times that.
It's more like the health insurance doesn't go up, so it's more like 45%. So if you take the, it's about 11.5% higher if you're using 8%.
So that'd be an average about $2 an hour a raise. Before taxes, right?
Yeah, but we figure what it costs the.
Well, no, I
taxpayer.
understand that, but I also like to, I mean, maybe I'm just thinking differently, but I'm also breaking it down percentage, so what are they getting percentage per hour of an increase? That's
8%.
So then after
But
that
that's what I'm saying, that's where I kinda like to, like, I know, again, you know, personal business, they do it differently, but it's like, you know, to me, if you're gonna hand out a raise, do it by hourly, you know, what are they getting per hour, so you break it down per hour, add that percentage on there, so they're getting so much more an hour.
So
I mean, like I said, I'm probably looking at it differently.
Well, no, but I mean, a percentage, it doesn't matter if it's hourly, weekly, monthly, a percentage is a percentage. So
Yeah.
if they're getting $15 an hour and you give an 8% raise,
Yeah.
you can equate that to dollar, it's $1.20 an hour.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's what I'm saying.
Right.
so after that increase, the deputies would go up to $19.32 per hour.
I figured with that 12%, like you said, with the COLA, it'd be 19, I guess 19.90, but maybe that's. Because you said, but you were thinking with the benefit, I suppose you were thinking the 50% with that.
Mm-hmm.
What is the cost of living increase? Is that, you said 8%?
8.7%.
8.7, that's just cost of living.
Yes.
So you look at it as a negotiation between you and the employee, or the county commission and the employee. I look at it as a negotiation between the taxpayer and the employee. Did the average taxpayer get an 8% increase this year? Is the average taxpayer better off this year than they were last year? And of course, the answer is no. The inflation, everything has taken away their means of making or having a disposable income, and this will just be another bullet into that whole situation. We're taking people that are already suffering and making them suffer more, and almost everybody's going to say, well, I didn't get an increase like that, but I'm paying their salary.
I understand that, but we also got to look at these employees of the county or elected officials are also tax-paying citizens too.
Hmm?
They're also tax-paying citizens.
Yep.
And just like every other, most companies, whether they give you a 25% raise, cost of living raise, whatever else, they deserve a raise also. We also got to look at it like that too.
Then you have to explain that to the people you're.
I understand that, but
That's
isn't that what the annual meeting at the end of all this is for?
No, the elections are what that is for.
Well, I understand, but like
And-
you
and
said, they can come in
It's that
October.
no one ever shows up for those.
Yeah, but they have a chance to.
But they've never got any satisfaction over the 100 years that the system's been in place, so people become ingrained not to show up. That's just that. Don't count on somebody coming and taking the burden off our shoulders. The burden is.
I'm not counting on taking
Yeah.
the burden off. I'm just saying that sounds like a day that if there's a discrepancy, they can come up, show up, and then they can voice their opinion on it.
Because it's never changed anything. It's never changed anything, so they don't show up.
What did you say, Steph?
What does the employee manual say?
I just look at that.
Motor vehicle.
It says that
It
we
says
may.
that we, I looked at that recently.
So I look at it
It
differently.
says the Griggs County employees will receive the social security cost of living increase each year during budget time. In the years when it was .02, we received it.
But you broke it too.
I don't think anybody broke it. There was years where it was miscalculated, so we came in and we asked for those, the years that we I shouldn't say miscalculated. I think you were using the estimate at the beginning of the year. So we were getting that, but at the end of the year, it was a different number. So it was several years that it took to figure that out. Then we all came in collectively and asked for that. So we got the 1.5 increase above the COLA 2 years ago, did you say, Sam? And then the 1.5 was taken away last year. So we're still in the negative, if you want to look at it that way, from the COLA.
Well, if it was given and taken away, we're even. So
No, we're
my
still-
my
we're
question
still
is, so
short.
if you get the 8% this year and it's 2% next year, what are you gonna do?
It's in the policy manual. I guess
And what
that's
do
the
you-
part that I
and what do
agree.
you- and what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do when it's negative? When the inflation becomes a recession? Are you gonna take a pay?
Kind of like Sam said that one time, it's cost of living increase, not the decrease.
But
So
there have been
it could be.
The one
there
thing,
have been several years, like, we don't get raises here. I don't think we've ever had a
The system
raise.
doesn't allow
We
for
have
that.
had cost of living increase, and the system does allow for it. There's lots of counties that get raises. I don't think anybody wants to pay more in taxes. Like I said, we all pay taxes too.
I know.
No one wants an increase, but also, you made a comment a few meetings ago that it's just a 4-year gig.
It
Well,
is.
But
It
you have to look at the employees you have. I just celebrated 16 years. Sam is on 9 years. Jamie's on however many years. You have good employees here that have longevity. There are some areas where there's been a higher turnover, but the department heads, there's some longevity there, and they are worth starting over is not a good idea. You talk to anybody, it's hard to find employees
Okay.
right now.
Can I argue the other side of that?
Okay, yeah, you always do.
Nothing against Madison, but she started out at the salary of a 30-year employee.
And I don't agree with that.
That's the
I
upside.
don't agree with that.
I-
I Connie was here for 35
Mhm.
years. On me, I'm like, wow, that puts a lot of pressure on me. Thinking like, I gotta live up to.
But that's where you
Common
also, when you
salary,
make
that's-
everything equal, and then besides leaving up to the department heads when they can figure that out,
The schedule.
that's,
Yeah.
they can figure all that out in their budget. I get what you're saying. You want to make everything equal across the board and everything else, and I understand that. But at the same time, we also got to look at that each department, and you're trying to get employees in here, and you want employees to stay, whether they're elected or hired, because it can cost more money to go through employees than it can to sit there and just say, hey, we're going to give you this no matter what. And then if Joe Blow has been here for 12 years that knows how everything's going, well, he can, screw off. Well, they ain't gonna like that either.
The system doesn't allow for that. They can be voted off every 4 years. So it has to be a set schedule. If you want to do it that way, you set it up and you make it fair.
And I'm sure, like Bob said, I'm sure there's a way to do it. I'm not saying that we can just jump into this right now. We can figure this out at a different time for next year's budget. But what I'm also saying is, there is other ways to figure this out so we don't run into crisis like this.
You're looking at it as if there's an unlimited amount of money and we're responsible to the employees.
No,
we're
I'm not.
we're
I'm-
responsible to the taxpayers.
I'm looking at it as each department can control what they employ and what they pay each employee by how many years they've been here.
And where do you think that curve will go? It will go just like this. It will be ever increasing. There will never be any, and each department will decide a different trajectory. And pretty soon, we're all off here. This department is paying its employees $30,000 this year. This one is paying 60. This one is paying 15. There's no way to make that work. We can't even decide on one salary here. How are we going to decide on 20? Because the elected official, the department head, doesn't get to set the salaries. That is the sole responsibility, the financial responsibility of the 5 of us. So now we have to differentiate between what one department head tells us against the other one. We have to somehow try to commingle those together. How do you do that? We can't even decide what the percent of increase should be here, let alone how we would decide, try to commingle 20 different salary requests into this budget. There's no way to do that. No way whatsoever. That can be done in private industry. If you are the boss, you get to decide what the employee's worth. When the government, in a government situation, the taxpayers get to decide what the employee's worth by setting a dollar figure on the position.
I think that longevity is very important. And I think, again, no offense to Madison, but when you have a change in guard like that, you can see that there are hiccups along the way. Those employees that have that longevity, they come with more knowledge, more experience.
But
Again,
you can't do it.
Do what?
You can't, okay, so let's take this, you can't offer the person coming in a lesser salary than the person.
Absolutely you can.
No, you can't.
Absolutely. Where does it say that you can't?
All right, let's say
So,
Connie,
honestly,
listen.
Because, no, time
I'll
out.
prove it to
When I
you.
took
I'll show you
over-
the court case.
No, when I took over in 2013, I only got a certain percentage of the department head. I had to wait a year before I
I'm not
got the
saying it
full
doesn't.
percentage.
Listen to this scenario. Let's say Connie didn't want to go. Let's say she was running for office and Madison was running against her. And Madison could say, I'm going to be in the position at 60% of Connie's salary because the county has this policy in place that we pay a new employee less than the employee that's been here for 20 years. That would put Connie at a huge disadvantage to the voters because the voters would say, well, we can get Madison for cheaper, let's get rid of Connie. That's why the system has to be the way it is.
The
There's-
department heads weren't at the same amount before though.
But the new employee coming in always came in at the same salary as the one going
But
out, and that's why.
Also, the deputies aren't elected.
Well-
So I think your step scale could work for deputies. I do think it's unfair. You know, I look at Christy, she's been here, I think she's going on 12 years. You know, she makes the same as a new person coming in. And that's not an elected position. That you can put on, other counties are doing it, John. You can go to the Association of Counties, what's it called? Salary survey, and they show all these counties that have these steps, and yeah, it is challenging right now because we're all here, but there are counties that have it. There's a lot of them, and you can see it out there on that salary study.
So why don't we just relinquish control over everything to the state? And there's no use for a county commission. There's no use for the individual representation of the citizens that I represent, or let's just let someone else determine what happens. And that's not how the system's set up, guys. It's supposed to be at its lowest level. We're supposed to represent the few people that voted for us, and we're supposed to stick up for what we think is their best wishes. And yes, the employees are also a citizen, but they are one of many. It's the majority that's supposed to rule in these things.
And I think all we're asking for is what's in the policy manual, and it's the only thing that we've gotten in the past. And the only reason that's an issue this year is because of the number. If it was 0.08, this conversation probably wouldn't be happening.
So then you can assure us that next year when the number is 0.08, that you're not gonna come and say, well, that's not enough, we need an increase?
We'll still try to ask for it.
But it's in the policy manual.
It's in the,
You
Is
can't-
it in the
way-
policy
the
of the
way-
manual to get that, or is it in the policy manual to be the minimum?
No, the way that I see the employee manual written like that is that the employees will receive the cost of living increase, just period. Now, if we get over that, that's then a raise. It's not maintaining the same amount of milk. Like that's my argument. You know, I'm trying to feed my family. I'm trying to do everything. Just like everybody else, with the cost of living 2 years ago, not this year. I'm not wanting to screw over the taxpayer or anything like that, but when you have it as the cost of living increase, and then the cost of living is higher, we're wanting that too, and it's not a good year to get that. That's the problem. And when it it was the cost of living was low, we were getting 0.002, 0.003, and those would have been probably better years to get an increase because everybody was in a better spot. Now we're wanting this, and it's a huge issue because it's maybe not the best year, but I still need to feed my family. I still need to do what I need to do to maintain my way of living and to take care of my family. And so that's the way that I look at the employee manual, is that, you know, we will receive at least the cost of living, and then
But I mean,
we
it
would
was-
come
it
in
was
and ask
violated-
for more.
It was violated 2 years ago. It was over and above the cost of living. And remember what I said at that time? I said, well, now, are we just gonna do it when it's not enough, and when it's too much, or is it adjustable?
But we were
That's what-
using the
that's
estimated
what- that's
beginning
what-
of the year.
We were trying to make up for the cost of living increases that we didn't get
Yeah,
previous
and-
because of miscalculation. I don't think there's ever a good year to raise taxes. Whoever says today's a great, or you know, this year, it affects all of us. But like Sam said, we too have families that we're trying, everybody's in the same boat. But if something we manual, why do we pick and choose when we get to use these things in the manual? It's in the manual. Don't we go by the manual?
No,
I
no,
can't
the
do
employees
drugs.
picked and
It's in the
choose.
manual.
The-
I can't decide. I'm gonna do drugs now. And we'll see how that goes. It's in the manual.
And
You
it
know?
was in the manual, and you got a raise larger than the cost of increase 2 years ago. It was in the manual.
No,
and-
we were trying to make up for the cost of living. We brought all the paperwork here. There was years that we were shorted. We
Okay.
brought all of that in here. I mean,
That-
you can fight that argument, but we will tell you, it was not a raise. We were trying, and we didn't even
Okay,
get
let's-
the amount
let's-
that,
let's get
remember
a-
the amount that we were shorted was still,
Let's get it on the record. So you're willing to go with the cost of living increase from here forward always, no matter what it is, if it's a negative number?
I say it should be the cost of living minimum.
And that's what the policy states. It says the employees will receive the cost of living increase. That's it.
social security cost.
Social security cost of living increase, that's it. No, and then we'll give them more, or then we'll take this away.
It's like Sam
just
said, a
that.
baseline, or
Yeah.
however. you want
The
to
way
like
I,
you said,
the way
minimum.
I understand it is, it's not like they're asking for a whole lot. They're literally asking for the minimum cost of living and not anything more. I don't see.
And it's 2 years behind, actually. So
Okay,
we're-
and then
we're-
all-
So in 2022, or 2022's is what we're actually asking for, because of the budget cycles.
Okay, and then on top of that, then is anything from that can be negotiated.
Then that would be considered a raise, not the
Yeah.
cost of living. If we were to ask for anything above the 8.7, then we'd be asking for a higher raise than the 8.7.
So those people that you need to feed your family, the other people that need to feed their family, we just disregard them because the money comes out of their pocket in order to give everybody else these raises.
I think everybody's aware of that, and I don't think anybody's insensitive to it. It doesn't make us horrible people, because
That's
we-
not
but
the
that's the
argument.
narrative. When you say it like that, John, that is the narrative that you're saying. We are not horrible people. We do not want to screw anybody over. We too pay taxes. They get increased for several different reasons. But we're talking about a cost of living increase that is 2 years old.
If I
And
go,
yes,
if
right
I
now
go to
it's
the
higher.
citizens I represent and I say the average salary for an elected official is $54,000 and they want an 8% raise this year and they want to make you pay for it, I don't get the response is, well, yeah, they probably deserve that. The response I get is, man, times are tough. I didn't get an 8% raise. I don't get 12 holidays a year off. I don't get to show up for work when I want to and still get paid. That's the response I get. So my response to you is, I don't believe the people that I represent are in favor of this. It has nothing to do with you personally. It has to do with the feeling and the wishes of the people I represent. And that will never change because until they start telling me, yes, raise my taxes, give everybody everything they want, then I'll change my point of view. But until then, I won't. And I owe it to the people that I represent, and I owe it to the position to try to put forward my point of view on this and their point of view. It has nothing to do with you or anybody else. It is the people I represent, what do they want?
I've also talked to several taxpayers and said, I understand costs go up and I understand some of these costs go up and that for my tax that need to go up because of that, I understand that. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm also saying that I've had a lot of people tell me otherwise.
Then you get to vote that way, Josh. That's how this works. All I'm saying is, when we vote, we are responsible to the taxpayers,
Yeah, I understand
and it's
that.
not going to go unnoticed. When this happens, there's going to be a lot of people that are mad, and it's going to create a action in the public, probably the media, and people are going to start asking questions. Well,
There's going to be also a lot of people that are going to ask a lot of questions if we sit there and cut everything and stuff's not getting done. in
We'll see.
favor.
We'll see. I'm willing to take that chance. We'll see. But if we have an increase of 30% in the budget, people are going to ask questions, and those questions are going to get answered, and they're going to say, well, who voted for that, and why did they vote for that, and why was that done? And myself personally, I'm not going to sit here and take credit for it. I'm going to exactly tell everybody why it happened, why it shouldn't have happened, and why I believe what I believe, and let the chips fall where they may. And every individual has to be able to do that, because you have to feel good about your decision with the majority of the people you represent. So enough said about that. You guys will do what the majority wants done. That's always the way it is. But don't think that it's one and done, and you can walk away and that's done, because you'll be answering for your decisions for a long time, and there will be people asking and prompting for you for your decision. I'll be one of them. I don't want to be lumped in with a 40% increase in the budget of Griggs County. I won't allow my name to be lumped in with that. I will show people that I was against that and why I was against it. That's the way the system works. I don't have to be lumped in with a decision that I don't think is correct. And you don't have to be lumped in with a decision you don't think is correct. But we both have to defend our position.
Do you think that the people at Wrighton's or John Deere or Cheyenne Tooling is going to get an 8% raise? I don't think so. I don't think that's in the budget.
Again, it's like John said, that's a different entity. Private is a different entity.
Again, it's down to what you think you need to do.
I know.
That's all there is to it. It doesn't matter what Kelly thinks you should do. It doesn't matter what I think you should do. It doesn't matter what Jamie thinks you should do.
Okay, let's ask this. Okay. Let's say we don't do 8%. I know the manual says 8% because it's the minimum. What would you guys be happy with? 8%, 4%, 2%? What do you, as employees here or elected officials, what do you think would be fair on your end?
The policy manual, I believe. That's what I would be happy with, listening, and, I mean, we're following the policy manual,
Yeah.
and that's what we're asking for. We came in at 8.7, because that's what cost of living is. We're not arguing any higher, so then it's just up to you guys to decide where we end up at, but we came in asking for the cost of living at 8.7. I think that's what we'd all be happy with.
You guys didn't get cost of living last year, you guys got cost of living minus,
The 1.5.
correct?
Yep, the 1.5.
Yeah. So you guys didn't even receive cost of living last year. Well, run the numbers with the cost of living in it, we can go from there.
I can tell you real close what 8% is going to do. It's going to add $150,000 to the budget.
That's what 8.7 adds across the wages is 150,000.
Yeah, so about $1 million in wages, and then you add 8% is 80,000, and then another 50% of the 80, probably 120,000 will add to it, somewhere in there. It won't propagate that, will it? It won't propagate an 8% increase.
I can't do that. No, I'd have to manually do it all.
But I mean, that's, a ballpark figure is 120,000.
Are you looking for a motion and to finalize this today? Is that what the goal is right now?
No.
No, we don't have the ability to move on anything but the whole budget. We're just, we need to put something together so that we can then vote on the whole budget. We don't vote on each department or each section of the budget. We vote on the whole thing.
Okay. Well,
It's
I-
It's
I-
$130,500.
Run the budget with the numbers.
Yeah. You know, give or take, maybe it's 53%, maybe it's 48.9%.
I just went off the 50. I just took
Yeah.
8.7%, which was 87,000 off the $1 million, like you said, average $1 million. And then I did that, I got 87,000, and then I took 50% of 87,000 and added that to the 87.
You just take the 87 times 140% or 150%. Yeah, 130,500.
That's a total of 280, 281, 270. So that's a total of 200, with the two of them, 281,274. Okay, so my question on that then is, what was their budget last year?
Levy or budget?
The levy budget.
Levy or budget. So the levy was last year we levied $1,497,760.88. So the math is.
So 1,470,000.
So this is what was levied last year. This is what you're estimating to levy this year. This would be your difference. So this is a really good page to look at if you're trying to.
But I know these have changed since then, so that's why,
Right.
that's why I'm
But
figuring it.
this one is.
Because I know this, like you said, this is not accurate because, trying to think.
Yeah, Bob stuff went down.
Yeah.
Or
And
we had more.
Yeah.
Revenue.
90,070.
So you wish for me to go through the budget and add or do the 8.7% increase and see where it lands for next meeting?
I say yes.
Yeah.
Do we have to make a motion
Yes,
on that?
please.
No.
We have to get a consensus. Rod, what are your thoughts?
I'm torn, to be honest with you. I understand with the cost of living has gone up, and when everybody fills their tank, it affects every one of us, whether buying a gallon of milk or a gallon of gas. But yet, when we got to think of the citizens, that the Griggs County is mainly a group of citizens that are retirees, and they're living on a fixed income, and we're going to hit them harder. You know, so I mean, we're pulling on the heartstrings, or if you want to call it that, on both sides. And you know, I understand where Sam said she's thinking of her family, but yet you got to think of those that are living on a fixed income. I don't, like I said earlier, I don't think that you're going to see the other businesses of Griggs County that make up, like you said, the average income in Griggs County is $40,000. To come up with that pay of that is, you're going to take in the people of Writons and Cheyenne Tooling and stuff, and I'd highly doubt that you're going to see any of those other companies handing out an 8.7% raise. You know, just for various reasons, whether it be that their cost of selling equipment and stuff is down because of you know, and inputs are higher, you know, across the board. You know, I mean, I take a look at myself, and I see what my inputs are costing. Right now, my inputs are higher than what I have received on the other side. If I was to go look at my spreadsheet from 2 years ago, I was making more money per mile then than I am now, and my rates were lower, but my inputs were lower. So I mean, it's affecting all of us. So I guess I think 8.7 is a push.
Refresh my memory here. Who received the 8.7% cost of living increase?
That's a Social Security cost of living increase.
Okay, so these people actually did they receive that cost of living increase in 2022, or did they gonna receive it in 2024? When did they receive it?
2022.
Okay.
No, they would have
2023.
2023.
They're receiving it right now.
Yeah, they're receiving it right now. Sorry.
So they're receiving it right now?
Yes.
Okay. So the citizens in the community have received this cost of living increase?
Yep. So we want to take it away by giving it to somebody else.
So what are your thoughts on increases, John? Do you just think that, I mean, and it's an honest question, because, you know, you've made it clear your policy, and I understand that, but I'm just asking you, as someone who has employees too, like, what is your general thought on increases?
I mean, we can't involve a private business with government. It's
Right.
two separate entities. So
Right. But what's difficult about this is the only way that anybody does get an increase, unfortunately, is this is the only means. of
again,
getting an
I
increase.
just look at it as what does the majority of the people I represent, would they be in favor of an 8.7% increase? And almost universally, I can say no, that they wouldn't, because they would say, and they do say, I never got that, I can't afford that, my costs are going through the roof, I'm not keeping up with inflation, but you expect to take money from me in order that an employee who works for me, who is a public employee, isn't affected by inflation. So I don't know what the number is, but I can tell you that the majority of the people in Griggs County have less earning power this year than they had last year, and so forth. So they're losing money. They're not getting a cost of living increase. Their cost of living is increasing and their quality of life is decreasing. And then to go to them and say, well, you're suffering, but the people, the public servants that are supposed to be serving you don't want to suffer, so we're going to have to make you suffer more. in order to make them whole. That's how I look at this thing, and Sam's right, maybe the increases should come when times are good. I don't know exactly how the whole thing should work. All I do know is I have to try to carry out the wishes of the people that I represent. That's,
And I do understand that, and I do
That's-
respect that. I think that you've tried to hold up to that. You know, I think, of course, the increase, you know, that's a number that we didn't come up with. We didn't create the policy manual. And some of those years, I mean, that's all we could hold on to.
I know, but
And
we're
I
being a
just
little
don't
bit
like the
dishonest
narrative
though.
that this makes us look bad. I think we've talked about this so many times that, you know, the COLA is the only thing that we have gotten and we've had help to hold on to. And yes, the number is high. And I think that makes everyone uncomfortable. It really does.
Again.
But I just wanted to make clear, we didn't create the policy manual.
No,
And we're
but-
just only asking for something that is.
But the fact that when I bring up 2 years ago when you went over what the COLA was and you say, well, we got the COLA plus a wage increase, that's not being fair. I asked the question and a couple of other commissioners asked the question at the time, well, does this mean that the COLA is out the door then? When it's low, we have to give more money, and when it's high, you get the full, and that was a discussion. I remember it very well, and we can go back and listen to the tapes and confirm that. So it goes back to my question, and it won't change my mind, but when the COLA is at 0, I quite expect, if I'm still here, that this same group will be in here saying, we need a raise because we didn't get anything for the COLA. But when the COLA is high, oh yeah, we'll take that 8.7, and that'll be good for this year, but it's not good if it's not to our liking. So again, it is what the people that I represent think, and unfortunately people have a bad taste in their mouth for government in general. And the COVID lockdowns and things haven't helped that image at all.
No, I would agree with you.
And we have a lot of people that walk into these offices and can't find the person they're looking for, and that just gets perpetuated in the dislike for it. And then when these people are going to be rewarded for all the things that people don't like about government come to the surface when they hear that they're going to be rewarded and the people that are paying their wages aren't. Fair or not, I don't know. All I know is I'm elected to represent them. And I'm pretty confident that my position in this is correct and it's proven right over the last 12 years that people do not want their taxes raised unnecessarily, and they don't want a public official elevated to a higher status or a higher salary than they themselves are getting, and they don't want the public official to be better off than they are, and that's just human nature. So again, I'm one vote, and that's all that I have in this thing, and I've stated what I believe, and I've stated how I'm going to justify, if this happens, how I'm going to clear myself from this, and the rest of it has to go forward as the rest of the commissioners want it to go forward. Because obviously, I'm only one vote, but I won't be part of it. I won't sit by idly and say, yeah, that's how we voted and I agree with it. That's not going to happen.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but going back, I know I wasn't obviously there that year, but I do know on our sheet that we did, when the COLA was 0, you guys received 0, correct?
Mhm.
So there is proof on there, so
No, but when the
when you
COLA
make
was,
that comment, when it's 0, you're gonna accept 0. Yeah, we would accept 0.
no, go back 2 years, and when it was at
But we're
.03,
fixating on this 1.5, and I think
I
that's
know it
what's
was
really
a point-
frustrating us. We're really stuck on saying we went over and above. We asked for the 1.5 for the mistake of we were using the estimated. And then when it was obviously said and done, it ended up being higher. So that 1.5 was just making up for those years.
Yeah.
But I think we're fixating on that 1.5 so much, That's what's causing a lot of these issues, because we're saying, well, you guys got above and beyond. You guys got above and beyond. If we wouldn't have asked that 1.5, where would we be sitting? And like many have said, if the COLA was 1%, this conversation probably wouldn't be happening. We'd say, in the policy, it says we get the cost of living, it's at 1% this year. All right, let's put that 1% in, we're done, let's move on. But we're fixating on that
That was the
1.5.
argument.
We can,
Sorry,
That
what
we
was
was
can,
the argument that you
okay,
passed.
go ahead, Steph.
Yeah.
But yes, they received 1.5, but the following year they took it away, so they got the lower COLA. So last year, the employees didn't even receive COLA. It was below.
And we're not
the year
asking for that
before,
1.5 back.
they received COLA. The year before, they received COLA with an additional 1.5. The following year, they didn't receive COLA.
What do you want to do?
Well, and we can always negotiate this, right?
That's what we're doing right now.
No, but I mean, like, let's say when we get the final budget, can we negotiate? and change it?
So I could put, just like I have right now, majority of everybody put the same salary, and I could go and put 8.7, see where that lands. And you guys can then further discuss it at the next meeting.
Sounds good to me.
And you can change mine. I just had that done before it was said to put it back, and I just didn't go back and change it, so.
I think mine was from last year, I didn't put in the increase yet. I just-
No, you didn't.
I just left mine,
Yeah,
yep.
mine I had already done before, and I just spaced it out. I was worried about the.
So if you're gonna put that in, I think we should have a couple of different options.
Do you want me to do a spreadsheet? This is what it would be, like
Mhm.
this budget would be with the
Let's do,
8.7.
like, maybe.
2, 4, 6, and 8.
Yeah, 2, 4, 6, and 8. I was gonna say 4 and 8, but yeah, 2, 4, 6, and 8. See percentages on that, what it's gonna do.
And include what it's gonna do to the overall cost, not just the benefit to the employee, the overall
Or
cost.
the additional 50% or whatever that percent.
2, 4, 6, and 8.
Rod, are you fine with that?
Yep.
It's an 8.7.
Hmm?
It's 8.7.
No, but like, that, what would it be if they got a 2% raise or a 4% raise, 6% or 8%? What would the cost be?
I understand, but it's 8.7.
Okay, 2.7, 4.7, 6.7, 8.7.
It'd be easier for you.
Maybe we can just meet in the middle somewhere. I'm not saying yes and I'm not saying no, but we can at least meet you guys halfway.
Well, absolutely, it's your guys' final decision, but that's what we came in at, and why we did that spreadsheet of past years, and just proving to you guys, here's what we received, this is why we're asking for this.
So just kind of rough figures.
I figured with both of them, with the two numbers we got, is that 281, 247, and I divide that by last year's budget.
It's 130, yeah.
Yeah.
So you can add that on to the.
Yeah, and that's
you
what
can
I,
add that
that's
on
where
to
I
the.
got that 281 at.
So you can add that onto the 160 that we got down to, and the 130, 500. So we didn't gain any ground. We're still at 290,000 or more.
I figured, well, I did the 150 with the number she gave me, and then I added up these two, and I put the 8% was a 280, and it was a total of, well, with the raises and everything, it was a total of 281, 274, and then I divided that by the requested from last year, and it's 18% difference.
Yeah. No, but yeah. So I mean, so we're down to, we were at 217. We took 57 off of that to 160.
I thought she said 150 something when she looked it up, so that's what I went off the number she gave me when she looked it up.
160,
Yeah.
159. So 160, and then you add back in this 135.
So yeah, we're at then like
295.
291 or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, it says that. 290, I said. So we didn't make any headway. So in the last two meetings, we've accomplished to make absolutely zero cuts in the budget. Not one penny. We found some money that was given, that was given by the outside source, but that was always there anyway. We haven't made one concession.
Well, she fixed a mistake on her, which was a $90,000 mistake. So that brought that budget down from 300 some thousand to 200 some thousand.
But that wasn't a cut. That was
No, I'm just
that was
saying-
gonna be found anyway.
I know, but I mean, I'm just saying that it brought that initial number down. So I get what you're saying. We haven't made any cuts to what's been presented.
No. We're supposed to present the arguments of the citizens we represent. We're not doing it. Any more in the budget?
Is there any other departments that we need to talk to or no? Talk about?
Well, I mean, there's a bunch of things that could be looked at, but no one seems to be willing to say, yeah, we should get rid of that. I mean, we talked about the county agent, and no one said, well, yeah, we should cut that. Or so, if we're not going to talk about any meaningful cuts in this thing, then we're not. And I can talk to them blue in the face, and it's not going to make any difference. Again, it's a budget is just that. It's give and take. There's been no give. Yeah, we need that, we need that, we need that. That IT budget is ridiculous. $130,000, 68, almost 100% increase. And we say, well, yeah, maybe we need that. The IT, he works for us. He's
Yeah.
not, he's an employee. We should be bidding this thing every year and getting the best deal possible. Not have someone sit here and tell us, here's what you have to spend, taxpayers, because here's what you need, or here's what we think we need. But we've adopted that policy through this whole budget. The people that come here to talk to us don't make the decisions for us. We make the decisions for them, because the taxpayers make the decisions for them. That's the way it works. We're lost control here, I guess. We're going to have if this stands the way it is, we're going to have a 20-some% increase in just what the county is taxing. And then with the assessments on the property, we're going to, over the whole county, we're going to raise taxes anywhere from 17 to 25%. I don't know if it's lost on people what that is going to do to the average taxpayer, but it's not going to be beneficial. And when they open up their tax bill, they're going to say, who in the hell did this to me? And they're not going to care that Bob Hook or Travis Palm came in there and said we should do it. They're going to say, well, they might have said you should do it, but why did you do it? That's what we got. That's the way I rationalize everything. Of course Travis is going to want to increase. Of course Bob's going to want to increase. Of course Samantha is. Kelly. Everybody's going to want to increase. Do the citizens agree with that increase? That's the only question I ever ask. And I can honestly say that almost without a doubt, the citizens do not agree with increases when we have increases like we're talking about here. Keep in mind, we haven't had an increase. Griggs County has not levied one dime more since 2013. We have had the same budget every year. We've found ways to do it. So
But we also got equipment past this Brian that should be replaced too. Radios, the server, everything else, we also have.
that server issue that's a recommended replacement. That isn't mandatory, and everything's back. That's why we have 3 backups. I mean, do you replace the
Yeah, but he
equipment?
also said if the server goes down, all the phones go down, all the communications for the computers and all that go down. You think
Until-
that would be a good thing? Somebody's trying to call the courthouse to pay a bill or something like that, or trying to get in here and they can't get a hold of anybody to pay their tax statement. And then what if it's right at that deadline and then they don't get that benefit or that break? What if that happens? Do you think they're going to be happy
Kind of
about
like the
that?
3
too?
months that we shut the courthouse down for COVID. No one even noticed. You're
We
putting
didn't
too
shut
much.
down.
You're putting
There were
too
some
much.
things.
You're putting too much emphasis on the services that are provided here. The state radio for the sheriff's department will still be up and running. The rest of the services, it isn't life and death. This isn't an emergency room. So, how long would it take to restore the server? Don't know. But everything's in a backup. You bring in another piece of equipment and restore it. Again, it doesn't matter at all to me what someone wants done other than what I have to explain to the taxpayer. So we can talk and talk and talk. I know what I believe the taxpayer wants me to do, and I'm going to do that. And I'm going to try to change everybody's mind to my point of view. And if I can't do that, I am going to disagree publicly with the point of view that was taken by the commission, because I don't want to be lumped into that viewpoint.
Okay, another question then. If we got, how much expenditures we got like all together, like was it like 5 million, 4 million, something like that, and CDs and all that?
No, see that money is contained within the budgets. So we're operating on the budget this year. That money is to fund that budget. We're operating on the budget. Well, pretty soon we're taking taxes for next year. All that money is spent. It's just held over here in a pot. The ability to spend it is over here in the budgets. So that $5 million is spent by the budgets that are out and up and running and obligations. So the $1.3 million that's in the road and bridge fund for the road department, the money isn't in the road and bridge fund. It's the ability to spend it. The money's over here in this pot. So there's no extra money there. The last time we did unobligated funds, Harold did it, there was like $173,000, some ridiculous number that he couldn't even be sure of. So that's not extra money. That's the money that it takes to cover all the obligations that the county has in past, present, and pretty soon future budgets.
So what if something major goes down, then what do we do?
I don't know, but you're treating an end of life issue, or you're treating a replacement issue like it's going to happen. I don't know. I don't do that. Most businesses don't replace their computer software on a timeline. Most people wait until something happens and fix it.
Depends on the business and depending on what's going on.
No, we don't.
Like I said, it depends on the business and depending on what's going on. Where I work, we just spent a whole bunch of money to update our software to prevent a problem like that from happening. Because if ours goes down, every list of customer information goes down. Our ability to go to that customers, everything else, to fill out the work order, to bill it out, that goes down. So we put in place situations to prevent that from happening. I understand that. We're a government, it's a different situation. But at the same time, if we completely go down and we have an issue that can maybe cause a catastrophic incident, they're going to be pissed about that too.
Again, you don't have to convince me. You can't convince me. You have to convince the people that you represent.
Well, and that's why we're being recorded too about all this.
That's right. And that's why everybody's entitled. Everybody in the county is sitting here. That's why we were recording. Everybody's sitting here, and when they open up their tax statement, whatever they feel about why that happened isn't gonna matter. Why it happened is going to be because the person I represented allowed it to happen, or the person I represented was against it, and here's the proof that it was against it. That's the purpose of this. That's why we live in a democracy, so that there is accountability. And I can't say it any more than that. I'm not on board with this. It doesn't matter that I'm not on board with it. You have to justify what you do. Everybody has to justify what they do, but be assured that you will have to answer to it. You don't have to convince me, you don't have to convince you, you don't have to convince Travis. Be assured that there will be a time to answer for that. I'm sitting here because the commissioners 13 years ago authorized spending $170,000 a year over the budget, and all 5 of them got thrown out of office. If that doesn't tell you the attitude of the population as far as disobeying their wishes, there isn't a better example.
I'm also sitting here because a lot of stuff wasn't getting done, fixed and maintained, and everything else.
Then where is it? Then let's fix it and maintain it. And you explain that, but you can't make me go along with it.
No, I'm not saying I am.
Okay,
I'm just
so then
creating an arguable reason why they bring their budget forward and they're asking for more money.
that's fine. That, again, not me, the people you represent. If they're on board with that, you're in good shape. Then you're doing your job. That's the way it is. So if we get to the end of this and we levy 30% more, that's what we did. But I didn't do it. And I'm not gonna help do it.
That's fine.
Yeah. So if I'll do my job as a chairman, I'll run the meeting, but I'm not going to encourage this behavior, because I don't think it's beneficial to the citizens. So, any more on the budget?
Where are we gonna move forward with then if we're gonna, if Sam's gonna get a breakdown of 2% and 4, 6, and 8, you know, are we, I understand why we're doing that, but are we just prolonging, I mean, this I don't want to call it, I guess call it a debate, by giving us more options when we can't make a decision on one option? I mean, are we?
Well, I mean, that's kind of why that percentage of the raises is in there too. Wouldn't that be kind of those options? And then Bob, like you said, he's gonna come back with a more solid number, and then I know Brandon, he said he was gonna look into it for a more solid number too, wasn't he? Something like that, or was his number solid?
Who?
Brandon, or not Brandon, but Travis.
There was one thing that he needed to look into, and that's a question that I have. We did get the quote from Tyler Technologies. We do have to do something, moving from Dakota Programs to, and there is another software that we can do, and that's Innovation, but it's not here.
We've been told by many counties and other entities, they're like,
It's got,
they're almost the same thing as Dakota Programs. They're pretty soon they're going downhill too.
yeah, and even Harold, we talked to Harold about it, and he recommended Tyler. He said that was probably the best bet. So we do have the quote from them. I don't know how do you want to bring it, or is that the budget discussion? Do we have to bring it up during its own agenda item and do that, or how?
Well, if it's money to be spent, it needs to be budgeted.
So then that's the whole discussion needs to be during the budget period?
So
We could just attach
Because
the
we do need-
quote
we do-
to the packet, and then it would just be.
I do have the quote here in your packet.
No, but I mean, it needs to get put into the budget here somewhere.
But I don't know how.
if we went
Like
with
the-
Tyler's, what would it be with Tyler's compared to Travis's type of deal? What would it
No,
this
so
is different,
this is
yeah.
different. It's not Travis.
He does the software, so what Tyler kind of gives him an idea, like here's what the proposed Griggs County looks like. and then he goes off of, okay, looks like what software they need. Here's then my quote to work with that, and so
It's
if
for the
Tyler's
operating-
I thought maybe like he
then
was a
changes.
separate, Tyler was a separate entity besides him to
No,
do
no,
everything.
this is a software operating system for
Yeah.
the accounting system for their county.
But the thing about like Tyler Technologies is like there is add-ons, the things. So it would be, you know, do you want just me and Maddie to go through and be like, yes, we need this, no, we don't, or do you guys want to do that? Yes, we need this, no, we don't, and have mine and Maddie's feedback on all of that. That would then change this.
Because right now, what's
Quote.
in there is what, when we've had a conversation with the gal, she said, is this something you might be interested in? We say, put it in there right now and we can discuss it. As of right now, it's something, yes, we could possibly be interested in, but in the end, it's up to you guys.
It's just like we didn't know how much more it would be.
Yep. Because they
So-
did say, oh, this will be
What exactly you
$200.
guys would want to use. I would say show the quote as to all that you want in that software.
And that's what we have right now. The quote what we have now
All
is
you're going to use.
what we would want to use, yes.
Okay. Because I don't use the software, so I can't tell you, no, you don't need this module, you don't need that module, because, I mean, I don't use it on a
Right.
daily basis.
Yeah.
Are we looking for a motion to adjourn?
Well, we gotta go to the other stuff too, don't we have to go do the whole courthouse stuff yet too?
Well, are we done with the budget?
So the proposal, can I bring that to the next meeting too?
So where are you gonna put in the budget? Where are you gonna put it in the budget?
Do you want me to put it in the budget?
Have to.
I think isn't Dakota Programs, is that in the IT one? Or where do
Yeah.
you put- Yeah, so probably,
So then that would then
Include
increase the
that.
IT budget.
I might have one more budget question. Postage meter, we're needing a new one here, but it's actually would be cheaper than what we're paying for now. Is it something that needs to be budget or separate?
Was it in the budget now?
Yes.
Then it.
Yeah, or monthly, because we just pay quarterly, so
Right,
that's,
and
I
if
think
it's
the
in the bu-
quarterly is
If it's in the
there.
budget now and there's money to do it, it shouldn't be a problem if it's in a new budget. If it's an addition, then it needs to be additional cost, it needs to be spelled out in the budget, but if it's, I mean, there shouldn't be, if it's less money than what it was, there should be budgeted money for it.
Okay.
Anything else in the budget? Okay,
And so, so let's say when she brings it at next meeting, we can discuss to make changes from there, right?
I hope so.
We can.
well, so.
I mean, I just wanna see what the overall budget's gonna be.
So what I'm thinking that I will do, if that's okay with you guys, is I will do 4 separate budgets exactly like this. And I will have one with the 2.7, one with the 4.7, one with the 6.7, one with the 8.7. And then whichever one you guys decide to use, we will then discard the other ones and just start with that
Okay.
one.
So yeah, so
Is
just
that-
answering your question, I spelled this out at the start of the budget process. Evidently, no one listened. A budget process starts with a dollar figure you're willing to spend. So you look at last year's, what would we spend? Is it reasonable to spend 10% more than last year? And you write that number down. Then you go and you do the budget, and you make that budget conform to that dollar figure. By doing it the way we're doing it here, there is no budgeting. It's just spend, and add up what at the end, how much your budget was gonna be. A budget is, here's the money I have to spend, and here's where it's gonna be spent, and I need to allocate that money accordingly. The way we're doing it now is, here's this whole wish list of things, And we add it up, and then we come over here and we call that our budget. That's not the way it works. That's not the way a family budget works. That's not the way a business budget works. That's not the way any budget works other than in government. So if we're not willing to decide how much the taxpayers should be able to have to spend, this whole process is, again, it didn't get us anywhere. It's going up. Because somebody comes and said, well, I should have this, I should have this, I should have this, and no one says, no, you shouldn't. I don't think that's beneficial to the taxpayer. Well, it'll make my life easier. It'll make it, well, it doesn't matter. It won't make the taxpayer's life easier. So the process is flawed right here, and it's going to be what it's going to be what it's going to be, but we haven't made any progress, and now we're adding things on already. We're going to be at $400,000, and we're going to be pushed up against a deadline, and it's going to get voted in, and that's the way it's going to be. I can see it coming. Budget process is never easy, and it involves tough decisions. We're not making those, and I don't expect that we're going to, and I'm not going to be part of it. So you guys are going to have to decide where you want to go with this, and then you're going to have to defend your positions, and you're going to have to defend your positions against my objections to it. Because I'm not doing this. I'm not going to be involved. I'm not going to be involved with this. I'll run the meetings, and if you guys want to manage budgets, you just go right on ahead. Old courthouse, new courthouse.
I've got nothing.
Steph, any word on your end about the historical society stuff or anything like that, or is that just kind of waiting and seeing, or what are we doing?
If they put us on a list to, when grants come up, that they'll notify us if there's a grant available for building. And I haven't received anything yet, so.
Okay. New courthouse.
Just probably what we talked about earlier was that new
ECU.
AC unit.
I'll talk to him when things kind of slow down.
Can we put that on
Future business.
future business? You know, just at least get an idea of what's going on, why it's doing this. If it's a compressor going out on the same unit every year, why is it doing that? Because it shouldn't do that.
Okay.
There's 7 residential heating and cooling units in here. They didn't do a commercial one. They did 7 individual.
Well, I know, but what I'm
residential
saying
units.
is if you're replacing one compressor on one unit every year, that's a problem. And why is it going out? I mean, I understand compressors go out, trust me, but at the same time, you shouldn't be replacing that same compressor every year.
No.
If it's a compressor on a different unit every year,
Do you
that's
remember what it
understandable.
was? It was like some coolant.
It was,
He had
every
red-
time he had to come and fill it with coolant.
You had
or-
refrigerant and everything on
Yeah.
there, but it shouldn't be $5,000
And
if
the
you
same,
just topping it off.
same thing every time, yeah.
There's just one part that
And it's-
keeps
and
going
it's
out.
the same air, it's like, but in certain, it's like different spots when he fixes it, and it like moves over to the next part, yeah, it's, I didn't really understand all of it,
Well,
but he said, yeah, it's
then
getting replaced.
we should talk into doing a leak check and have him fix all those spots.
Oh.
So that'd be another thing for future business, obviously, to look into, you know, why.
Mhm.
You know, why do we keep spending the same amount to fix the same thing over again? And why is it costing us $5,000 to do that when it shouldn't be doing that?
Yeah.
Because unless he did a leak check, but it should still not be $5,000. Especially if it's on the same unit. If it's other units over and over doing it, and he's finding them in other units and fixing them, that's a different story. But if it's, again, the same unit over and over and over again, well, that's a very
Same
problem.
issue.
Yeah.
Okay, so put heating and cooling system on future business and let me through there. Anything else?
Someone should probably someone probably should contact them and see what's going on with it, so it can be explained at the next meeting, or have them come in.
Josh wants to talk to them, because I don't speak cooling units.
Well, they're not supposed to leak in general. They're not. That's supposed to be a fixed system that's not supposed to leak. Now, especially when equipment gets older, does leak happen? Yes, of course. And new systems, are they built as good as older ones? No, they're not. But still, you should at least get 10, 15 years out of a system. They say average life expectancy of a system now is about 15 years. Give or take, but it's about 15 years. So if you have to keep putting money into one system over and over again, and that system is probably 10, 12 years old now?
What, 8 or 9 years old?
9 years old? So we're putting,
No, I don't think it's even.
Moved in 15 or 16 in here.
We moved in 17, but the sheriff's department moved
Okay.
in a year before that.
Any other future
It's been a long
business?
time.
I guess I'm getting too technical on what one little issue can
It's
be.
been sitting there a long time.
Any other future business?
Can I ask a question? Do you want the department heads, so we haven't went through some of the, like the grant? Or do you want us to come in next meeting to talk about that for the budget stuff?
Was an amount listed in the budget?
So
Yes, you
the
asked,
court,
you didn't approve it.
the courtroom grant, you wanted to talk to Kelly because I wasn't entirely sure what it all was for.
Yeah, so that's why I asked earlier if you wanted to go through that, so I could
Okay.
explain what that was.
Yeah, we can look at it next meeting, I suppose.
Okay.
Anything else? Well, no future business. I guess we can adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn then.
Motion by Avriel to adjourn. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Edlund. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned, 5:45. Next meeting in this chambers. When is it, Sam?
July 20th.
July 20th. Yeah, right in front of me.
Not tonight.